Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Daddy, there's a podcast at my window. Can I have a glass of podcast?
Isn't it at my bed or door?
I think window, right?
Okay,
Because isn't it at the
whatever.
door? I don't. Hey, everybody, I'm Griffin.
I'm David Sims.
Griffin Newman is the name.
Yeah.
David Sims is the game of the name game of the other person I host the show with. I forgot to put my fucking phone on the airplane mode for the second time.
This is bad. Even for you, this is a bad opening.
This is the worst one yet. But this is the best podcast ever.
Yep.
It's called Blank Check with Griffin and David. This is a mini-series. We do mini-series. We're like cereal.
Yeah.
And none of this cereal...
And we don't dip back into the
That's
old...
what I was going to
actually,
say.
we might do that one day. Who knows?
Yeah, we probably will. But for now...
Cereal spam in my feed with season 1 again? I didn't like that.
I kind of like it.
Uh,
Can I throw out a hot take?
Adnan did it?
No, we established that episode 1 of this podcast. We were very clear. We wanted to make it clear that people didn't need to list the cereal anymore because we told everyone that Anand did it. So did Jay. They worked together.
What's your hot take?
hot take? I think Serial Season 2 is really good and people don't like
I
it or
agree.
poopy diaper babies.
Serial season 2 is great.
It's great. So that's a
Love
shout out.
Serial season 2. Shout
Poopy diaper babies.
And Katie, get on this. Get on this podcast.
This podcast, miniseries.
Yeah.
Investigative miniseries about passion projects. When filmmakers are given a blank check to do whatever they want. Sometimes someone has a big hit, you give them one shot.
Yeah.
You're sort of Michael Cimino, Heaven's Gate. You get one shot, free reign. Sometimes someone makes such a big splash early on.
Hollywood just keeps saying, do it again. Do it again.
They keep swinging, one could say.
Yeah, they swing away.
They swing away.
Yeah.
Even the problem is they swing every time.
No, they keep, even as the flops pile up, Hollywood's like,
Yeah.
nah, this time you're going to get it right.
Yeah.
We're really honing the...
To paraphrase the immortal Michael Showalter, never stop swinging.
And he's in this movie, yeah.
Yes,
right.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, right, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Hey,
Hi, guys.
No, hey, apology accepted.
We have guests.
Yes. So this podcast, this miniseries is called...
Pod Night Shyamacast.
Pod Night Shyamacast,
Right,
which
right.
beat out my choice, which was PCast Shyamalan.
We don't need to talk about it every week.
Okay, well, I just, because
Well,
I've had a
Katie
lot of
Rich,
people come to me on the
former
street and
guest-
say that they would have voted for mine if they hadn't been bullied.
Former guest Katie Rich called it your name by mistake when she plugged us on her podcast. So
Take it where I can get.
yeah, exactly.
We have two guests today.
Mhm.
Now,
We're
we
much
talk-
more professional podcast than this one.
We talk a lot about our home base here at the UCB Comedy Network with our old buddy, producer Ben Hosley, the Haas, poet laureate,
Go on.
the Ben Deucer,
Mm-hmm.
Purduer Ben,
Yep.
the Peeper, the poet laureate,
Right.
Mr. Positive,
Kylo Ben.
Hello Fennel,
Yeah.
the tiebreaker,
Uh-huh.
Birthday Benny,
But not...
Professor Crispy. He's not.
He's not Professor Crispy.
He's not
which
Professor
you tried
Crispy.
to name him last week.
Yeah, but I'm very clear on that. That's not his nickname. We're not going to call him that. I'll make it very clear. I'll announce every episode that is not his nickname. His name is Benjamin Hosley.
Yeah.
And in an ongoing series of twists, every week we think we know what our relationship is to him in this new miniseries. Changes again.
Yeah.
1 week, he's in the studio with us on mic. Another week, he's in the booth, but we can hear
He's
him.
the voice of God.
1 week, he's got a fucking intern. And then he doesn't have an intern. Today, we have a walkie-talkie on a table because this is huge.
We have two guests.
This is a first. We have two guests on one episode.
And that has displaced Ben. He's the lowest on the list.
Ben doesn't have a mic
that
anymore.
relegates him out of the league, basically.
So we have a walkie-talkie, but we turn the walkie-talkie off. So if Ben has an emergency, he's got to storm in here dramatically.
I think he's listening to us right now.
Yeah, that's the best part. And he can't say anything. But yeah, if you hear a door slam open dramatically, then
Benny.
the next thing that happens, one of us will pass over a microphone and Ben will be able to announce something. Two guests, and they are, one could say, cousins
Yeah.
within our UCB Comedy podcasting network family.
Yeah. Brethren.
They host a podcast that both of us have been on.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a twist. Not just podcast co-hosts. They're co-hosts in life and in matrimony. Because
Sure.
they're the sexiest fucking couple I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Murf Meyer, Diana Kolsky of the Ménage podcast.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
I thought you were saying we were cousins.
I thought that's where that was going too. It's
Oh,
like,
you
could say
guys are sort of.
I thought a blood
cousins who-
test had been done.
And I was like,
got
Jesus, let
nervous.
us spill that on our own show rather than that breaking news on someone else's show that we are cousins.
Spoiler,
We're the
cousins.
twist corner over here. We're sort of the twistiest podcast in the
Oh,
UCB
this has been
Comedy.
such a twisty podcast so far.
So far.
Can I
Yeah.
also say
And,
the Peeper is my favorite name for Haas?
Peeper's
The
great.
peeper.
It's-
yeah.
Sometimes he's peeping in. You know?
Sometimes he peeps.
Those little peepers.
Ben is also your producer.
Yeah, well, I was the first time he busted out the walkie-talkie in our podcast, I laughed for like 4 hours.
It's a good bit.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
good.
really good bit.
Where did he
He was
get
like
this
screaming
thing?
at an intern through a wall.
That was a fire sale at Radio Shack.
I was
Like one of the last
Hey.
items.
No, that's a baby monitor.
Reference.
Okay, Diana, see, these people, you can tell. We're dealing with pro podcasters here, procasters here. Because that was a perfect segue into the movie that we're talking about today, which is Signs.
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 Fifth film.
Signs, the fifth film by M. Night Shyamalan. The third M. Night Shyamalan film, quote unquote.
Right. Yeah.
You know, once he rebranded himself as the master of suspense. But this is the fifth major motion picture that M. Night Shyamalan directed. And we're going through all of them one by one. Now, I guess, let's just remind everyone, Praying with Anger, student film, barely released.
Sure.
Wide Awake, kept on the shelf,
Miramax
released
movie.
years later.
Cut up. Yep.
Right. Wasn't happy with the result. Sixth Sense, humongous.
You might have heard of that one.
Right.
Yeah.
I have not.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll get to it.
It was
later.
big at the MTV Movie Awards that year.
Yeah.
I think it won.
It's right away.
best scared as shit performance.
Yep.
That was a category for a while, right?
Yep.
Yeah. They weirdly qualified. They nominated Misha Barton barfing on Haley Joel Osment as Best Kiss. Which I
No,
think
they did not.
they did.
Wow.
Apparently, the people who worked for MTV didn't know what a kiss was. Most of their staff is 10.
Yeah. They were like, when I think about
Yeah.
girls or boys, I puke.
Yeah. A kissing is when a boy and a girl do a thing with a mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, did she open her mouth?
But that was
Thanks
like
for that.
Munchausen by proxy
Yeah.
kiss. Like that was a very dark vomit kiss.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
it
it didn't
was.
Even
win.
darker
It was a
than
dark
just being
vomit
barfed
movie.
on.
Yeah, it didn't win. Went to Cruel Intentions instead. Selma Blair.
Oh yeah.
And
Speaking of a little incestual.
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
Sixth Sense is huge. One of the 10 highest grossing films of all time. Gets nominated for like 8 Academy Awards.
Big thing.
Huge. Comes back the next year with Unbreakable, a film that I adore. You like less.
I like it.
Yeah, you like it. But it was big, sort of, didn't lose money, but it was a huge financial disappointment in the wake of Sixth Sense. Topped out at under $100 million.
Right.
And didn't get any Oscar attention. I think has grown in esteem since then, but at the time was viewed as like maybe he was a one-hit wonder.
It was viewed as a classic sophomore slump,
Mhm.
I guess.
The classic fourth film sophomore slump. And then, no, I know what you're saying, though.
I know.
Because
We
the
talked
public
about it
thought
last
was a
week.
top- Right, yes. I wasn't making fun of you. I love you, David. You're my best friend.
Yes.
I forgot to say, we're the two friends.
Oh, yeah, we are #the two friends.
We're trying to get that going in terms of branding. We think that's a hook that other podcasts don't have because, like, you folks, you're a couple. You're a married
Right.
couple.
You're not friends.
No, more than friends.
And you're
We're
not
the-
there to make friends.
Right.
No.
We're the two
Certainly
friends. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I
we're not
get
here to
that.
make friends either. We only invite people we're already friends with to be on the podcast.
That's very
But
true.
we think, like, people are like, oh, what podcast do I listen to? And if they hear, like, oh, this podcast has two friends on it?
I think
Two
that's
friends.
It's a
The
big
two
draw.
friends. 1 and 2.
It's very inclusive, too. A lot of
Yeah.
people have been in that situation where they've been the two friends.
Yeah, I think most people can relate to being a person and having a friend.
Anyway.
I think it's universal. We're the two friends. Our fans are called Blankies.
Yeah.
Signs comes out 2 years after Unbreakable, because Unbreakable comes out 15 months after.
That's right.
Sixth
Signs
Sense.
comes out August 2002.
So not a huge
2002.
gap, but there's a little time to sort of reset.
Sure.
The public now has sort of like gone back to like, okay, we don't know. M. Night Shyamalan's not going to pull out a Sixth Sense every time. Expectations are more reasonable.
A little bit, but also Shyamalan's like, all right. Unbreakable was a little too moody, a little too slow.
Yeah.
Not a big twist, not like a big action-y, suspense-y stuff.
I'm going populist this time.
Right, let's make a big, blown-out suspense film, like a fun thriller
I believe
for
this
the
movie,
whole family.
I believe this movie comes out the first weekend of August, which we've
I
referred
just
to
said,
as
August 2. Yeah.
the one sort of weekend in the summer, the one weekend in August you can release a film and still have it look legitimate. You get later into August, you look a little gamey.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
You know?
That's true.
But that's still sort of
Early
the last,
August, you can
you
sneak
can
in
still sneak in there, and if you're good, you play through like August and September.
Yeah, he came out the week before Austin Members Gold Member had come out the week before.
Okay, so the dethroned
So
gold
Signs
member.
knocked that off.
Was Goldmember? Was that 3? Was that the third one?
The
That's
third
the
one.
third one.
And then Triple X comes out the following weekend, I believe.
You may be right. Goldmember opened to $73 million. Wow. People
2000
were really hyped for, in 2002.
For the third Austin Powers.
For
people
Austin
were
Powers and Goldmember.
clamoring for it.
Well, I mean,
Triple X is the next week.
this is a stat I love. Just a little box office sidebar. Do you know that Austin Powers in The Spy Who Shagged Me
Sure.
is one of only 2 sequels in history to
That
outgross
outgrossed
the
the original,
first film
sure.
in the opening weekend alone.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
So Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, I think made $50 million.
Yeah, it was a sort of middling to nothing hit. Yeah.
Spy Who Shagged Me did 54 opening weekend in 1999, which means it would almost be 100 million today.
Wow. People were
Opening
really
weekend.
into Austin Powers, including me. I was really into Austin
And then the only other one is Pitch Perfect 2.
There you go.
I think it did 60 million total. First movie, second movie did 68 opening weekend.
Wow.
Nuts, right?
One fucking weekend.
One weekend.
Why are we not walking around? I mean, I haven't seen Pitch Perfect 2, but what's the behave? Like the society was walking around for months only communicating and fucking.
Yeah,
Catchphrases
in
from
Powers.
Austin Powers.
Yeah.
I don't know what the equivalent is for Pitch Perfect 2.
I've gotten really into, I don't know if this is going to stick, but I've been trying to sneak this in socially. I've been trying to use shagadelic as part of my main vocabulary.
Might be
recently,
time.
but not do Austin Powers impressions.
Right.
Just be like,
But
Murf, that's a very shagadelic shirt you're wearing. I think it's really funny. I don't know if it's going to stick, but I think it's funny.
Murph is right because he's like kind of
Murph
like
is right. He's a very shagadelic man.
It is very shagadelic.
Shagadelic.
But like he was like Borat was eventually the Austin Powers, but who replaced Borat? Who is it now?
Ooh.
Is it, what have we got? What's the Minions? Is it the Minions?
I think it is.
my.
Yeah, you always know, like, drunk uncles show up at parties going like, oh,
Wait, drunk uncle. That sounds like
I said
a good
drunk
character.
uncles. I know.
Yeah,
I
you should
by
flesh that
accident.
out.
No, but I was trying to think of, like, who quotes, like, the big comedy movie and makes it
Right.
uncool. It's your uncle.
It's always the uncle, yeah. When it
Not,
reaches
not my
that.
uncle. My uncle's very sophisticated.
Um,
but Minions you can't really quote because there's banana.
Banana.
That's I think
My
that's what they say.
wife.
I just want to give you the top 5 films when Signs is opening weekend, just to give you a sense of 2002.
Can I try to guess?
You're not gonna guess.
I want to see if I can.
All right. Well, number 1 is Signs.
Right.
It opened to 60 mil. Great powerhouse opening weekend.
Which I adjusted for inflation last night would be 90 mil today.
Good job.
Huge for an
Shyamalan.
original film.
Nailed it.
For
Gibson.
an original film, humongous,
Yeah.
right? And Gibson is top of the world. I'm sure we're going to talk about Gibson a lot, but Gibson is top of the world
Mel
at the time
Gibson?
of this
Are there
release.
things to say about Mel Gibson? Is there any? Yeah.
2000, which was 2 years
He had
earlier
What
than
Women
this
Want,
film.
right?
I believe
Yeah.
he had $400 million grossers in 1 year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he must account for
Damn.
at least a third of the gross of this film.
Well, he had
just
the
him being in it.
No, he only had 2.
No, he had 3.
He had 3 if you include Chicken
Patriot,
Run.
I include the fuck out of Chicken Run, David.
Right.
He's Rocky, the Flying Rooster.
No, I know. I get
That
you.
film was
Above the
funny.
title, they pushed him hard.
Yeah, Gibson.
Maybe the best performance of his career.
Absolutely not.
Chicken Run, though.
It's a good movie.
Chicken Run, though.
Chicken Run, The Patriot, What Women Want.
Yeah.
And then he had, in 2002, he had Signs, and he had We Were Soldiers.
I do? No.
I thought you did.
You guys drinking water?
You're not a What Women Want fan.
No, I'm aware that it exists.
Who likes What Women Want?
Nancy Meyer.
Yeah, it's a creepy movie.
It's very creepy.
Can I ask a
Like,
question?
what if Mel Gibson could read minds? That's not like women's minds.
No.
Diana, you can ask any question you
What
want.
is the M for an M. Night Shyamalan?
Menage?
Menage.
Menage
Nice.
a Trois
Yes,
Radio
I just put that
every
together.
Wednesday.
His first name is Manoj.
Yes.
Oh,
Menage.
that's how we spell it too.
Yeah, Menage a Trois.
Manoj.
You should.
Have you had Shyamalan on your podcast yet?
We have.
Okay, good.
He
All right.
seems like he'd be very open about his sexuality.
Yeah.
That guy seems very comfortable.
There's always a
open.
twist too.
It's always in his dick. He's got a kinky dick.
Yeah, that's the
I was like, his
twist
dick
comes in.
literally has a kink in it.
turbulence.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like one of those duck dicks, you know, the corkscrew.
It's a corkscrew.
one of them duck dicks. My wife.
Duck dicks. Okay, I'm gonna guess top 5 2002. Number 1, Signs.
Sure.
Number 2, Austin Powers in Goldmember.
Right.
Number 3, My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
It's number 9, sorry.
Is number 9?
It had sli-
At this
Oh
point,
wow. Okay, so let me
yeah.
see.
It's gonna come back, I think, because it only
Right.
has 40 in the bank, and I think it made like $300 million.
It only has 40 in the bank at that point?
So it's gonna just keep, rolling
this is
on. The
what I know.
Windex and the
I looked ahead.
all the 2002 guys. What a year!
Triple X comes out the next weekend.
Sure,
is
yeah.
number 1 for 2 weeks, and then Signs comes back and is number 1 for the following 3 weeks, which doesn't happen that often. That you lose
You
one,
lose and then- yep.
you come
Right.
back,
That's crazy, actually.
and
You're not gonna get number 3.
Stuart Little too.
No, that's number 6. You're doing pretty well getting like the general.
I'm in the 10. Okay, 2002.
You're not gonna get it.
Blue Crush comes out the next weekend. Fuck.
No, I don't know.
Men in Black 2.
No, that's number 7.
Fuck. Pretty good
Give up.
getting things in the
Give up.
I give up.
You know the summer of
The
02.
Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey. You remember that movie? He
No.
played a turtle
Certainly
man.
do,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I never knew it was in the top
Turtle Man.
box office.
Opened at number 3, 12 mil.
Not a bad number, actually.
I think it might have. That might have.
It did.
yeah,
I think it
dipped
ended
after
up
that.
at 13 million.
What a fucking talented dude to make
Yeah.
that movie.
What a weird
I know.
movie.
And that was a passion project for him.
At number 4, which is why I wanted to do this, is Martin Lawrence's live comedy film Run Tell That.
Run Tell That.
Yeah. So it was a weird time.
I wasn't
2002.
That
going to
is a
get that
weird
one.
time.
And what's
Yeah.
number 5?
Road to Perdition. Classic summer
Oh.
movie.
Yeah.
Mobsters, rain,
Darkness.
murder, wife murder, child murder.
The kids
Stanley
got another couple of weeks before they got to go back to school. Let's get some
this
popcorn
out
and
in July.
Yeah.
We need people to see this in July.
Do you remember how overwhelming the merchandising blitz was for Road to Perdition?
oh, the tie-ins were out of
I
control.
remember I was at summer camp and
Get your
every kid...
life-size trench coats.
Well,
your
you go-
Tommy guns.
You go to Burger King, they of course had the Burger King tie-in. And at Burger King, instead of like the paper crown, they had paper like fedoras. Like
Yep.
every kid had a
Yep.
paper fedora. And it was one of those weird like things
and they had a murder camera for the Jude Law's character.
that squirted
Yeah,
water.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those plush Paul Newmans that were going around in the Happy Meals.
But it was nice.
Wrinkled
Wrinkled
face.
I was gonna say,
Authentic wrinkled face.
It's nice to cuddle with wrinkles, you know? It adds some kick to your playtime, to your snuggle time. Okay, so Signs opens, huge, plays
hit.
big throughout the summer. It ends
Huge
up
hit.
240, 238, something like that.
Wow, Griffin, you're really good. 227, 400 mil worldwide.
Adjusted
Big
for
hit.
inflation, I looked last night, would have been 340 today.
Great job,
Huge.
Signs.
What's the just out of curiosity? What's the
budge?
formula for the inflation? Because you seem to have it right at the tip of your
on Box Office Mojo.
Because I
right here.
checked
Straight
it
up.
last night.
Oh,
Box
nice.
Office Mojo has a little thing you can use, and what they
Point.
do is
Beautiful.
they adjust it by what the average ticket price was then and what it is now.
Cool.
That's what they do. So it's not an exact science because it's an average.
Sure.
But it would
But
make
that's still a monster.
something like $340 million. A huge, monstrous hit. The second biggest film of
Huge
his
hit.
career
Right.
still. I think at the time of its release was one of the top 20 movies. Maybe released up until the point.
I can't
Huge.
answer those questions for you. Yeah.
But Time Magazine puts him on the cover. We've referenced this cover
Yeah.
before. He's staying in
Have
the
you guys seen
cornfield.
this cover?
No.
The next Spielberg, they say.
The next Spielberg.
And he's got one hand on his hip and the other hand is pushing
And he's
aside.
wearing-
Meanwhile,
grain
at this
stalks.
point, Spielberg is still making motion
still
pictures.
making movies.
Yeah, he just made like Minority Report. You know,
Yeah.
he was and Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, he has two
There he
films in
is.
1 year.
Oh my!
Let's see.
And he's in the
Wow.
crops. He's knee deep
He's in the
crops.
crops. He's wearing like a ropey necklace, sort of like a
Mhm.
baseball player necklace.
Yeah, it looks a little less. It wasn't Time Magazine; it was Newsweek. It looks a little less like a
Newsweek,
Newsweek's
sorry.
cover, and a little more like a Billabong. ad.
Yeah, it
I was
is.
gonna say he looks like a mall rat to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Nice.
He was
It's that-
hanging out of like Quicksilver.
Yeah.
It's
It
that
looks
crossover from the 90s to the early 2000s where the fashion was still kind of stuck in some sort of mid.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
a jungle
Yeah.
behind him too? What's
No, that's the
happening?
corn. Those are the
corn.
cornfields.
Oh, I see.
No, Ménage was he was trying to get like a sponsorship deal with Life is Good at the time.
Anyway, yeah.
So-
Good job, Ménage.
Cover of Newsweek.
But yeah, I think this
Or
movie,
Time,
like,
whatever.
No, it was Newsweek. You were right.
I remember
wrong.
after I was a
Griffin
huge,
was wrong.
I was wrong. I remember I was a huge M. Night fan. I loved Wide Awake. I loved Sixth Sense. I loved Unbreakable, right?
Sure.
And Unbreakable, was seen as a disappointment. It felt like the bloom was off the rose. It's like, maybe this guy's not going to hit every time. Maybe his name doesn't have that much box office value anymore, you know?
Just like Spielberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The bloom was off the rose.
Bloom
of that
was
guy.
off the rose at that guy. Yeah, that's why they said he was the next Spielberg. They meant the next guy to direct 1941. But this movie came out and did huge business opening weekend. You know, the trailers were very vague. It was a very basic premise. Farm, crop circle show up. Is it an alien invasion movie? You know?
Yeah, the poster's just crop circles.
Mel Gibson's face wasn't even on
No,
it.
you got his name, but
Right.
it's just whoa, what if there were crop circles,
And,
guys?
and we got Mel, and Mel, in a certain way, this is maybe the height of Mel's box office powers.
I mean, he's been a huge star for like 15 years at this
I
point.
think
you
this
know?
might have been his biggest film as a leading actor, and this is also the last film he makes before he takes like an 8-year
this
retirement.
is well,
Yeah.
this is the last film he makes, I think, before he goes off to do
Passion
Passion
of
of the Christ.
And then he does Apocalypto, and he doesn't appear in movies
but that's
again.
also when he starts
Going crazy.
running his mouth.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is where that
Yeah.
Vatican II came back hard for Mel.
I don't think
Was
he
after Science.
headlines another film until 2009.
You
Top
mean,
Lines?
Edge of Darkness?
Yeah, I think that was 2009.
That's correct. 2010.
2010. So
he takes an 8-year break.
Yeah, directs 2 movies, one of which is humongous.
And one of which is really good.
Yeah, but he kind of goes out on top. Apocalypse is a rad movie.
Apocalypse was so good.
Yeah.
So this
It's
was
too
like
bad
the
that it was
beginning of
made
his
by an anti-Semite.
religious agenda.
Weirdly, yeah, it's kind of an
And
interesting.
he's a former priest in this movie, or minister. Or whatever.
He plays
Yeah.
a man
That's
who's lost the
interesting.
faith. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Mel Gibson's life, he's from Australia.
That explains it all.
Yeah.
and that's it. No. I think he was raised religiously. His dad, I think, is
That was
crazy.
kind of a lunatic, yeah.
Yeah, big fan of white people. Not so
Yes.
much other people.
Not so much anyone else.
Not
Yeah.
the Aborigines.
Yeah, nope.
No, and but this is the thing. It's like at this point, I feel like Mel Gibson. Well, he's the guy who made like Braveheart and shit. But he's also like he's the prankster. Remember that used to be. He's like he smokes cigars and don't you? He's always like making pranks.
The
and,
wily Aussie.
yeah, right.
What's
and,
kind of interesting
and
because
it was sort of then he was slipping into being like I think that like gay sex is wrong.
Yeah.
Like and he starts saying stuff like
He's
this.
like
People are
still
"Whoa,
holding a
what?"
cigar though.
Yeah.
You're
Right,
like, wait a
right.
minute.
What's interesting, like Lethal Weapon's the thing that really puts him over the edge.
What a
right?
performance, though.
Like
That I was gonna say that's his best.
That's his
performance.
fucking best performance.
But
I was
So,
just
and also
saying
the
that.
Year of Living Dangerously. He's made so many good movies.
But this is what I was gonna say. He's made a lot of great films. I mean, that's the interesting thing for me about like film history is that your like legacy, I feel like as a movie star, is more determined by whether or not you were lucky enough to appear in good films and the quality of your work. Like there are a ton of mediocre actors who will always be on that like painted like mural at the AMC theater.
Yep.
Because
of
they were
the
in
films,
3 movies
yeah.
that will be watched forever.
Right.
Whereas like I was listening to Mickey Rourke was on Alec Baldwin's podcast, which I perversely love.
Oh, those two.
Alec Baldwin's podcast is great if you want to hear Alec Baldwin tell every guest he has on that he was the first choice for whatever job they had. And not just when it's actors. Like he had like Matt Lauer on the show and he was like, Matt, I don't think I told you this. I was the first choice for today's show. They called me up and they said, Alec, we need you to. Like everything is just,
Yikes.
That's insane.
I turned it down. It's a great podcast. I love it. But
That reminds me, I know this isn't a sports podcast, but we were just talking about this. Like,
it's
whether,
very much not a sports
No,
podcast.
but,
But
like-
it is.
continue.
Let's
but
do it.
like how good of an athlete you are to how many championships you have.
Yeah,
but
right.
you might,
How
it's
many
the
rings
team
you
you
got.
were on. It's not like
Of course.
necessarily
That your own
individual
individual.
ability. You know,
I think it's the exact same
Same
thing.
with a big movie.
Yes, I think it's the exact same thing. I was listening to Alec Baldwin's Mickey Rourke episode, and he was talking about how Mickey Rourke, the whole arc of Mickey Rourke, that he was like the great American leading man, and then he, self-destructed, destroyed himself, came back with a wrestler, and then immediately
That
wasted
was
it
that,
all to
right.
do fucking direct-to-video, tax shelter action films where he plays the mentor in one scene and gets $7 million probably of illegal money, of blood money. But I was like, I was listening to like Baldwin go through all the great Mickey Rourke performances, and it was like, oh yeah, but none of these movies have really stuck around. Like it's like, oh, Mickey Rourke
Right.
in the
Barfly
80s.
or-
Right, they were
Right,
like,
yeah.
he was the most exciting leading man,
Year
and it
of
was
the
like,
Dragon.
You're the Dragon,
Yeah.
and what was the other one?
know.
Johnny Handsome.
Okay, sure.
You know?
Right. But you're saying Gibson, he was in the right movies.
He's got like Mad Max, he's got Lethal
Mad
Weapon,
Max,
2 huge
Lethal-
franchises.
Lethal Weapon.
Right.
He's got Braveheart, so he like directs, wins Best Picture, wins Best Director. Signs he's in like a huge M. Night Shyamalan movie that like, whether or not it's like a huge, classic in its own right,
Big hit.
M. Night is an important enough part of film history that film will always be remembered and watched. And Chicken Run, obviously. Chicken Run, which is his best performance, the best film he was ever in.
I just want to tell you one of the things. He said so many bad things. I've just been scrolling through his Wikipedia page
Yeah,
of
it's a
all
huge
the
quote.
many bad things he's said over his career.
And before you say this, I just want to go on record as saying this is a pro Mel Gibson podcast, and we endorse everything he has ever said. But now, please, David, read this quote.
This is my favorite one. Obviously we know he's been very anti-Semitic. He's been racist. He's been abusive towards his girlfriend.
Yeah.
He's been he's been homophobic.
Yeah, but on the other hand, he smokes cigars, David.
He does smoke cigars and he is a bit of a prankster.
He's a wily one.
In a July 1995. So this is like
Early.
Braveheart year,
Yeah. He's about to win Best Picture.
Right. Interview with Playboy. Gibson said Bill Clinton was a, quote, low-level opportunist and that someone was, quote, telling him what to do. He said the Rhodes Scholarship was established for young men and women to strive for a, quote, new world order, and that it was a campaign for Marxism. So he's doing
So
like
he's
a
already
lizard people
slipping
thing.
into he's already slipping into full on insanity.
I love how
In
early
95.
that is because people think of him as like going crazy in his later years.
Yeah,
He's
like
always been a
later
little
meltdown.
nuts.
Yeah.
I
Well, I'd
think.
like to throw
and
out
he was
a little
raised,
theory.
I
Yeah.
think a little nuts.
I'd like to throw out a little theory right now. Maybe Mel Gibson didn't lose his marbles. The internet just didn't really exist until the 2000s.
Right.
Yeah.
No one
Maybe
was
these-
recording his
These
rants.
quotes didn't circulate. He didn't have to talk as much. If he did a Playboy
Yeah, it was
magazine,
there was no internet. There was no
yeah, you jerk off. You'd read the Playboy interview on the toilet once. You'd throw
you
it out.
skim through it.
You
Yeah,
skim.
You're like, oh, there's the cigar
What's
smoking rascal
Marxism?
from
Yeah.
Lethal
Yeah.
Weapon.
Just throw it in the
And you
trash.
may not even read the whole thing because a couple pages might be stuck together. You
Yeah,
know?
you can't even get to the whole interview
Because of jizz.
Because of jism, I say.
and that teenage jism.
But I was going to say
What
what
a
I think
weird
is
guy,
interesting,
guys.
the weirdest guy. What I think is interesting about Mel Gibson is, Mad Max, big cult franchise, right?
Yeah, and a
That
lot of like good Australian, like
does
Gallipoli.
Peter
and
Weir,
Peter Weir
does
movies.
those
right,
You're Living
yeah.
Dangerously, and then Lethal Weapon's the breakout. It's his franchise. It's an action movie, overnight huge star. They make 4 of them, and he becomes like one of the guys, and a huge action star and a heartthrob, and all of that.
Yeah, and he's in like some Tequila Sunrise, and
Bird on a Wire,
Air
Bird on
America,
a wire.
and, and in Hamlet. Remember his Hamlet?
Yeah, conspiracy theory.
Forever Young,
Yeah, the man with no
Maverick,
face.
which is
Maverick was a
fun.
fun movie.
Some fun shit.
Maverick,
Jimmy
though,
Garner and
Yeah.
Jodie
Jodie
Foster's
Foster
in
was
that.
fun in there.
Yeah.
He and Jody are close.
They love
They're
each
still
other.
pals. They're like because he was in the
She-
Beaver.
That
defends the
chemistry
shit out
was
of him.
Yeah.
was palpable in Maverick.
Yeah,
And then he makes Braveheart. He wins Oscars.
yeah,
And it makes a shit ton of money. He makes Ransom, which is a huge hit.
right.
And
Oh, give me back my son.
Give me back,
Give Me Back My Son. He makes Conspiracy Theory,
Conspiracy
which
Theory
is,
was.
fun.
It should have been better than it was because I wanted to like it.
Fun 90s movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like in
Yes.
retrospect, very, very fun in the 90s. He makes Payback, which is a little grim and gross.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then he's got your Chicken Run, your Patriot, your What Women Want, your We Were Soldiers, these sort of stirring action movies.
So he doesn't make a film in 2001. He makes 3 in 2000.
No, he makes The $1 Million Hotel,
oh,
which we're
right.
not going to
yeah,
talk about.
We're not going to talk about
Of the
And,
of the
and
newer
then Signs, yeah.
Nam movies, I thought he was. We Were Soldiers. I thought was one of those better of the newer Nams.
I've never seen that one.
I've never seen We Were Soldiers.
It's actually it's about
I
the
remember-
first
right, the original
boots
incursion.
on the ground kind of thing.
I remember Sam Elliott in the trailer saying, Custer was a pussy. Remember that?
That's a great line.
It's a good.
Well, We Were Soldiers is our Murf pick of the week.
Hey, We Were Soldiers.
I watched the making of documentary, as I was telling you guys off
Yeah.
mic. And apparently he had made We Were Soldiers right when he came to sign. So
Okay.
he was in this We Were Soldiers mode, Shyamalan says, and he was like showing it around like the White House and to like, USO shows or whatever. So he was in like Patriot mode.
Yeah.
And I think Shyamalan was obviously very intimidated by Mel Gibson like before the movie started.
Sure.
Well,
Because, he'd been making movies with Bruce Willis.
yes, that was. It seemed
Obviously,
like that was
they
his
had
guy.
a bond, yeah.
Mhm.
But
I
here he's
heard-
going in a new direction.
I heard. I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but I believe this is correct. And I wrote the part for Clint Eastwood originally.
Oh, that would have been good.
Mm.
He's a little old.
Little
Really?
old. I think that's
Mel
why
was
It was
already
already
pushing
hard
it
to
Yeah,
believe
a
that they
little
were
bit.
brothers.
Yeah.
No,
'cause
he's
they're only
19
25
years
apart.
older. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I think that's why they didn't cast Clint Eastwood. But in his mind, he was like, "That's the American archetype, the stoic."
Well, how's Clint Eastwood going to have an Abigail Breslin-sized daughter?
Once again,
Yeah,
I
that-
think
Get
I
off
think that's
my
why.
lawn to the aliens.
That would be good.
That would be
Get
good.
off
That'd be
my
great.
corn.
Crops.
Yeah.
Get off
right.
my corn.
I think that's why he wasn't cast.
Sure.
But that was
well,
the sort of
Gibson
vibe he
also
wanted.
strikes me as like he's the kind of A-list star who, if you can get him, you're gonna at this point in time
Just make
you're
it
gonna
work.
do it. Yeah,
One of those great all-American Australians. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
true.
he's technically American.
I think so.
He was
yeah.
born in like upstate New York and then moved to Australia when he was like.
So he
So
could
he
be
could be
president.
He could be president. They-
Jinx.
Okay, I just want to make it very clear. Murf and Diane did not just high five.
right.
They each stuck out 2 fingers and then just smacked the 2 fingers together.
That's what we do.
Cool. It was like they were doing the Hunger Games salute
It was
with
it was
force,
a-
but it made
a
no
high two.
sound.
I think it's really interesting to hear about all the box office stuff in the
Mm-hmm.
lead up because I was never aware of Signs and didn't really even know it existed except for very abstractly
Yeah, well-
until I was asked to be on this podcast.
You
and
had
then
not
last
seen
night
it
I watched
until-
it.
okay,
Yeah.
wow.
Have
so
you
hearing
seen
all this
other
is interesting.
Shyamalan movies? Like, have you seen
Only
The Sixth
Sixth Sense.
Sure, right.
And
right.
only in theaters.
right.
Wow.
And then
So
after
I'm
that,
not-
he left. You
Honestly,
and he
like,
parted ways.
I was stoned at a party once and The Happening was on and people were just falling out of windows or the sky or something.
Yeah, at
and
the
we were
party.
just-
That sounds bad.
We were just laughing,
Yeah, of
like
course,
because
yeah.
that
People were
movie
so
was such a
horrified
joke
that
at
they
that
jumped
point.
out.
Like,
Yeah.
so I think I just had this vague idea that M. Night Shyamalan just kind of fell off, but
Right.
I had no actual evidence of
Yeah.
that.
This is his last movie where he is like it hasn't been shattered yet. Like the bubble is still pretty solid around him.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
we
think
can
so.
say sure, Unbreakable was a little bit of a dip for him
Yeah.
or whatever. Great
But
job.
time's been kind. I almost knocked over a mic.
But like, and this movie was a huge hit, and
Yeah.
he was still just like seen as like, oh yeah, the master of
The guy.
suspense. Now, what this movie doesn't really have is a twist.
Mm-mm.
You know what,
No.
though? I thought it would because of Sixth Sense the whole time we were
Right.
watching it last night.
People
I was
were going
screaming,
in, I think.
he's
Yeah.
dead.
Right.
He's not alive. He's
This is
the
all a
alien.
video
Everyone
game.
is dead.
I said it was a video game
At one
like
point,
5 times.
At one point,
Well,
Diana.
it's a little
threw
video
out a
gamey
video
at the end there. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I also thought there was going to be a twist. I just remember
Yeah, what's your
what the Mel
experience, of
Gibson
course.
point I was trying to build up to. I
I
just
saw
want to
this movie
throw
with
this
a
quick thing.
girl.
Hey,
I
congratulations.
was 16 years old.
I saw this movie with a lady too.
Any diddling?
Her name was Antonia Dauphin. She was my mommy.
Oh.
Oh boy!
No diddling.
Twist.
hey,
Yeah.
Murf.
That was the twist.
That was the twist. No, I just Mel Gibson point I was building up to. I forgot to say the thing I find interesting about his career is Lethal Weapon, for lack of a better term, weaponizes the sort of repressed insanity with him as a man. It's a guy who's suicidal.
Breaking
And the
down.
whole point of that movie, the hook to like Lethal Weapon is like the one guy's might be crazy.
Got nothing to lose, yeah.
And then other than that, most like Mel Gibson movie star movies don't let him be kind of unhinged. Like
No.
Mad Max was mad. Lethal Weapon, he was crazy.
Yeah.
And then he starts to like over the years become a little more and more stoic. And Signs he is very stoic. What
He
they're
is.
asking him to do is be like a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not quite in his wheelhouse. I'd say the
No.
casting is interesting for this.
Yeah, I thought he was terrible in this.
Yeah.
You thought he was
I
terrible?
don't know if...
No, see,
I liked him.
It felt like overacting to me. I saw this last night for the first time. Every
Yeah.
look he gives is like, this is a podcast, sorry, but he's like it
Yeah. For
For the
feels like
listeners, that was like
everything is
a
overdone.
great eye roll and
Yeah.
facial
No, there's no
contortion.
subtlety.
He's got these like real wrinkles in his forehead, and he's like, really working him every time the
Yeah.
camera's on his face. What were you gonna say, Griffin?
No, he does. He does have like old leather purse face right
Yeah,
now, but it looks
right.
kind of great and dignified. I was saying, I mean, this is what I'm finding difficult to decide. Okay, I saw it at the time. I thought he was good in it. I thought he
Sure,
was
you
fine.
weren't walking out being like Mel Gibson.
right, but I think I said, oh,
Mel Gibson.
good job. But I wasn't a particularly big Mel fan outside of Chicken Run, so I think I like him more. Just
Griffin, do you like Chicken Run?
yeah, I like Chicken. Yeah, I mean,
You're
it's
obsessed with it.
well, no, we all. It's a movie. We
I've
all
never
love
seen
movies.
it. I've never
I've seen it.
Chicken
It's good.
Run.
It's a good fucking
It's
movie.
a fun
I
animated
haven't
film.
seen it in years. It is a very good movie.
Cannot
Yeah.
recommend it enough.
It's better than Signs. I'll say that.
No question.
So you leave and you feel fine about Mel.
I went, oh, good performance, good enough. I loved Bruce Willis after seeing him in the two Shyamalan movies. I didn't really have much exposure to Bruce before that, became converted after that, got deep into his filmography. Unbreakable, I was like, man, great
And
performance.
he had Die Hard the way Mel had
Right.
Lethal
Lethal
Weapon
Weapon.
before
80s
they
action
came to
stars.
these like quote unquote artsier films
It's
for
true.
them.
He
You
dips
know?
into the
Yep.
80s action
Yeah.
stars.
He
but
did.
I'll say this. I walk out of Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and I go, I got to find out what Bruce Willis is about. Dip into Die Hard, right?
Mhm.
I walk out of Signs. I don't think I saw Lethal Weapon until years after that.
Oh,
No.
really?
I didn't
Interesting.
feel a
Okay.
need to go into his thing. I went, oh, that's Rocky the Rooster. He's obviously one of my best friends, but he's okay in this, right?
The first Lethal Weapon film I saw was Lethal Weapon 4, so I was already intimately acquainted with. I saw that before the other three Lethal Weapon
Interesting.
because I was just a huge
Working your way
Chris
back.
Rock
Yeah,
fan.
Detective
Yeah.
Butters.
Yeah.
Rock and Pesci
Yeah.
just off the rails.
I was
Yeah,
just like,
those
this
sequels.
cast is loaded. Jet Li, Chris Rock. We're gonna see this.
My favorite scene in Lethal Weapon 4 is when there's like some like conversation happening between like Pesci, like Glover and Gibson, and they're just talking about like the case or whatever. And then like Chris Rock walks by in the background, like hitting a cell phone, and he's like, "Man, I can't get these cell phones to work." And they're like, "Really?" And then he just does fucking
Like a
Chris Rock's
stand-up
4
bit,
minutes
right.
on cell phones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was when they were just like, this Chris Rock guy is everywhere. We
Yeah.
got to just get him in the movie.
That was the excess of the 90s.
Yeah.
It was
was.
just kind of like, hey.
Well, and it was also back when like comedians would make poor choices, and their agents would be
Yeah.
like, "It's $1 million bucks. You're just gonna go. You're gonna do 10 minutes. You're just gonna go do 10 minutes on the set."
Do you remember how the Lethal Weapon 4 trailer ended? This is a
you
big
mean
side
him running
tangent.
around in his underwear?
So there was only one trailer for Lethal Weapon 4.
I remember
It had them
that.
running around their underwear.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers didn't have a big blockbuster that year. It was 1998 for the summer. So they rushed into production, and they were
Okay.
like filming it until like a month before it came out. So the
So
trailer
like that's
was like
all they had.
one set piece, which they showed, which was like Gibson convincing Glover to go out in his underwear. And at the end of the trailer, after they like threw out all the names, it was just a shot of Chris Rock direct addressing the camera, and he just goes, "It's me, Mel Gibson. I might look different, but it's still me, good old Mel Gibson." And I remember at the time being like, "Is this movie that meta?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's not.
No, it's not. It was that they
It's just a
literally
cop.
only
They had nothing else.
They had 2 minutes of footage at that point.
They're
So they were like,
let's get Chris to say you're
something."
Mel and people will love it.
In theaters, July 17th. Like
also,
whatever you said.
this is a photo I grabbed of the Lethal Weapon 3 pinball game. Now the artist did some
really
great work on
Let's see.
Rene Russo and Mel and Glover, but push in on Pesci. The artist either ran out of time, they got a different died, and they have someone else do it, or he's got an axe to grind because that's like Pesci's
That's like
cousin with
Oh
Down
my
syndrome.
God, he looks like King Koopa from Super Mario Brothers or something.
Yes,
It's terrible.
That's a bad.
like a burn victim.
Yeah,
sort of, like
it's a
rubber
bad
man.
portrayal of Pesci.
Wow.
Anyway, so that's our take on Lethal Weapon.
Right,
Is
okay,
Lethal Weapon
yes.
4's commercial and the pinball machine from Lethal Weapon 3.
Now,
Yeah.
Diana, I find what you said about Mel Gibson's performance very interesting. That you felt like he was overacting.
Mm-hmm.
I did as well. He's doing a lot of fucking eye work.
Yeah.
So much eye work.
Like he's
Too
doing
much.
a lot of eye bugging, a lot of crazy eyebrows.
But do you think that Mel was miscast, or do you think that Shyamalan pushed Mel really far, or do you think that Mel's just not that great of an actor and has been in great movies? Like, what do you think that
I think
actually
Mel's a great
is?
actor, but he's an overactor.
He
He
is.
always has been.
And in this kind of intimate setting where it's basically it's all chops because it's like it's Independence Day, but in a from one
In
family's
somebody's
perspective in a
farmhouse.
farmhouse. So
Because we talked about this, like Joaquin is in the same movie with the same director, and you don't walk away being like, "What the hell was he doing?" In
No.
that?
Joaquin
you
looks
know?
great in this
He's
movie.
He is
great.
great.
Yeah.
So
He's
then I
doing
think
some
it's Mel.
interesting stuff.
So is the one of those
I like
Culkins
Mel
and
in this
Breslin.
one.
Yeah,
Like
the
the,
kid-
the children
the
had more to
Culkin-
do.
the
than
All
Culkin-
right,
Crazy.
Abigail Breslin is phenomenal in this movie.
She
What
is.
is she? 4 years old?
I
Well,
know.
I want to talk
I
a
have
little
to
more
talk about that
Gibson.
because
Yeah.
we'll talk about it later. But the making of scene has this great moment about Abigail Breslin. Anyway, carry
This
on.
is sort of the structure how we've been doing these episodes. We talk about the performances, then we get onto the movie.
Okay.
But Gibson, I was watching it last night and going, I feel like he's really bad in this. I feel like he's pushing it too much. He's pulling like crazy faces. What's going on here? Am I now viewing it through the prism of knowing everything we know about Mel Gibson, looking for signs that he's losing it?
Looking for signs.
Looking for
Looking
signs.
Are there
Is
any
it-
crop
But see, I
circles
don't
in those
think-
wrinkles?
I don't think that I was though, because that to me feels very far away.
I agree.
Like his
Sure.
rant, and
Right.
also I felt very separate. We like hit the vaporizer and just watched this movie. I felt like I was in a vacuum. Like,
Yeah, sure.
I didn't
Right.
think like I went in wanting to hate Mel at all.
Yeah.
I actually wanted him
neither.
to be more subtle, and then that's why it kept bothering me that he was like. I felt like he
He's-
was just giving too
He's
much.
unsubtle.
Yeah.
But all right, look.
Every
one.
other actor in this film is on the exact same wavelength, though, which makes
Exactly.
it kind of tough.
I was Mel apologizing
cop-
a little bit after we watched.
cop
because
was amazing.
I'm with Murph.
Cop's
This-
amazing. Cherry Jones.
Cherry
is
Jones.
I did
Yeah.
think
So
the
Yeah,
first
she
little
is great.
all of her things she says are like mini monologues, and the first one I like thought was awkward because the movie's like purposefully
Yeah.
a little awkward and like sterile. And,
Yeah.
you know what
It's
I
a
mean.
little stagey,
but by
yeah.
the middle, I'm like, I love her.
She's like a great theater actress. She
She-
played
yep.
Meryl Streep's role in Doubt. She won the Tony for that.
Oh, wow.
She
yeah,
originated
Yeah,
that.
she
She's great.
won an Emmy for 24.
Yeah.
You know,
The way
she's,
she delivered the news about the wife
Oh,
was
yeah.
like
My
incredible.
God.
Just because it's
That
such a
scene
How do you
brutal
even
thing to
say that line was the most
Yeah.
ridiculous line I've ever
Right,
heard?
with the
and she
pinned
was
line?
Yeah,
she's alive when she shouldn't be.
Yes.
Like you're
because
just
she
like,
kills that
it's
scene.
amazing.
And you know what? I would actually say that's the one scene I think Mel really kills because his weird, like, conflicting bottled emotions actually work well for that.
I
Because
think
it's
he's
a guy
great.
trying
I
to
agree.
keep his
I think he's
cool
great.
while, like, something insane's happening.
Yep.
When
The
he
rest of the
says
movie, you're
the
trying to
line,
figure out if the
I
guy's
think
having
the
a mental
line, "This
breakdown."
is the last conversation I'm going to have with my wife," is
He
great.
delivers the shit out of it.
because it is such a silly line, but at
Yeah.
the same time, like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a weird plausibility to the fact that he'd see, like, I get what you're saying. I need to
Yeah.
say it out loud. Like, I don't know.
But-
I like
but
Mel in
I
this movie.
agree. I think every other scene-
agree with Diana, but still liked him.
Every other I don't think he's bad in it, but every scene
All
it
right.
feels like is he about to crack.
Well,
and it
that's
doesn't
right.
feel like that's what the movie's about.
No.
Now this ties into this
If he
point.
had played it straighter, I think that kind of like dry, subtle humor that they have throughout would have hit so much
Well, he has a
harder.
lot
I think when he
I felt like he
this
was winking
movie-
to me, like, and
Yeah.
The
doing
movie has
crazy
this
shit the whole
goofiness.
time.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
is.
That
Definitely.
tonally, it throws it off a little bit. 'Cause then-
Especially the town scenes, like when they
Yeah.
go to
Oh,
town.
yes. Yeah.
And
But,
and
like-
and Merritt Weaver, a young Merritt Weaver, is
Right,
the
yeah.
is the drugstore employee who's like
Yeah.
confessing to him.
And Showalter, as we said
and
before.
Showalter.
What the
What a
hell
cameo.
was
great
I
Michael
forgot he
Showalter.
was fucking in that
Yeah.
movie.
The army dude
Handsome.
was a David Lynch character.
That
Yeah,
guy
it
was
so
crazy.
out of
Wait a
place.
second.
It
You've
was
got
so
two
out of
records,
place.
don't you?
He's got that great line where he goes, "You should be somewhere getting your toes licked by a beautiful
By a
woman."
beautiful-
I wrote that down
Getting
in
your
my
toes
notes.
It's crazy. Who is that guy?
I
Yes.
don't know, but
that
that's the
actor.
Let's find that man.
I did
He is
check
a
on IMDb.
Lynchian.
That guy's fifth build in the movie, which
Is
makes
he?
sense because there aren't that many. I mean, you go Mel, Walk, and then Cherry
No.
Jones.
The kids are real
Breslin
lower.
and
Kieran
Culkin?
Culkin. And then I think split
His
card.
name is
Is it-
Ted Sutton.
Ted Sutton.
I think it's then split card between Abigail Breslin and the wife, and then he split with someone else.
Okay.
The
All right.
wife was split in half.
Hey,
Yeah,
Diana.
the wife's lower quarters were played by Someone else.
Diana, I would like to award you 7 comedy points.
Thank you.
This movie is not a twist movie, as you said. You go into this film, Sixth Sense, very much a twist movie.
Yes.
Wide Awake, fucking twist movie. Unbreakable, it's got an ending that's surprising. The whole structure of the film was sort of twisty. This film is very straight down the middle.
Twistless.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's kind of like a weird like Independence Day, but on one farm. Like, a lot of shit is clearly happening in the world in this movie, but we're not seeing that.
You're seeing
really.
a very,
we're just
very
seeing the
small.
farm.
Yeah,
I like
Which
that they
made it more of a thriller, less sci-fi feeling.
Yeah, it was definitely more. It was Hitchcockian and kind of even Spielberg. And since he is the next Spielberg, it's very Poltergeist in a lot of ways, where the creepy moments are there, but they really slow burn it.
Family drama and a lot of just sort of like odd energy scenes where it's like, what's going on here? But I do think I had not seen this since I saw it when it came out in theaters.
Sure.
Maybe
Same.
opening weekend, second weekend. And I remember the first time my viewing was, okay, where's the twist going to be? So you're looking at all these different elements. You're looking at things like that Mel looks like he's a little unhinged,
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at things like the water glasses and the
girl.
asthma. All these details he's calling attention to.
The
and
dog murder that no one cared about.
Right.
That scene.
Yeah.
Literally no one
Strange.
ever spoke
That
of it
scene
again.
is
No, it was just
weird.
kid had to kill his dog, and we're moving on.
All these little details, I'm going, okay, so what's the what am I supposed to be keeping track of,
Yep.
Because like Sixth Sense became such a big thing after the time. Oh, if you see the color red, that means there's a ghost. So I was like looking at the visual language, and it's like, what's he setting up here? And then the twist is almost that there isn't a twist. Like, he's sort of doing this meta commentary on, like...
Is he?
Well...
I don't think he is.
But you're right, though. They were like, are there aliens? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that was
exactly...
the
He's
movie.
like, you think this might be a hoax, and then like about like an hour in, he's like, it's definitely
It's not a hoax.
Right,
yeah.
it's 100%.
And there's
what
that
there's
world
aliens.
origins thing happening where it's the, the
Yeah.
TV we hear a lot of, and then there's
Right.
the water
Yeah.
shit, of course, which I guess is that considered a twist? Some people said that was a twist.
Well, I
That
don't
If
think
you're
that's
going to
just-
call something
yeah.
a twist, I guess it's that they're vulnerable
To
to water.
I remember watching it the first time and being a little annoyed, and I don't think I was able to verbalize that this is what it was at the moment as a 13-year-old or something. I had 6 pubes. I couldn't formulate the thoughts.
Wow, congrats.
Pubes are where ideas come
At
from.
half a dozen.
Half a dozen. But I remember feeling like, okay, where's this water thing going? Where's this water thing going? Oh, the water thing's there so that they have water glasses that they can knock over to hit the alien. That feels a little convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but the whole
Well,
point
that
of the movie.
Abigail
That's-
was a
yes,
genius,
yes.
and she knew to like fake her water
But that was
issue.
that was the rewatch this
The
time.
whole point of
not
the movie
having
is
seen since
that
then.
God is present in this man's life.
Right.
Yes.
And when Mel is chanting, holding his dead son before he comes back to life, your lungs were closed. That's why you have asthma.
Yeah,
it's
right,
like,
right.
give us a little fucking
Yeah,
credit.
come on. Yeah, that's
Yes.
the problem
We
with
can
the
put it
movie.
together.
It
Yeah.
gives us
No
no
credit.
credit.
Yeah.
Well, he's a bad writer, I think we can say. He's an amazing visual director. I feel like his scripts are pretty dog dick
No,
at times. And that's another
I
thing why
mean,
I'm
I think-
apologizing for Mel, because it's hard with some of these fucking lines.
Yeah.
I agree, don't disagree with you. I
Please
think
stop
that
calling me father. I can't hear my children. Like it's like
there's
terrible
a lot of stuff
writing.
like that. I think
Yeah.
this movie, and Unbreakable had a little of this, and this has a lot of this.
Uh-huh.
Everything is serious.
Wait, which movie?
Unbreakable. Yeah. Everything is serious.
Yeah.
Everything is delivered like a pitch down the middle right to the camera.
But then sometimes
And like
Mel
it's like
and Walker,
clunkily
Melodrama.
obvious. Yeah.
sometimes Mel and Walker are like fucking Dumb and Dumber. Like they got these scenes where they're like, let's run around, scream, and the whole scene's supposed to be like, oh, we're laughing at these goofballs being goofy.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
loved when they were
Joaquin does
running
a lot
around
of
the
good
house.
too.
It's
Comedy,
goofy fun.
yeah.
I laughed at that.
When he goes, "We're gonna whoop your ass."
Yeah.
Joaquin
Yeah,
was
he's like
great.
trying to tough talk.
I like that scene where Joaquin piles all the bags to block the coal thing, and then he puts the
what,
can
soup
on
can?
top.
That's a
Yeah.
good little gag.
Oh yeah.
Funny.
Yep.
Well, my point was that like all these elements that you're looking at being like, where's the twist? What's this building up to? Are in fact just transparent dramatic devices, right? The bat on the wall, like all these things. And the point the movie's making is like, oh, this isn't a formulaic like super like crafted movie. This is a movie about how some higher power is putting all the pieces in place so that
Yes.
everything can
It's
work
not
out.
chance.
Someone's watching.
I
out for
am
you.
Night Shyamalan, am God.
Right.
Yeah, and if you were unaware of the theme, you don't even need to watch the movie. Just read the script, the pages where he first has that conversation with Joaquin,
Yeah.
and it's very clear as to what all that is, because he lays it out in a way that
Right.
Pretty
is
quick.
just not only shows it to us, which is the cool part in the visual storytelling,
Yeah.
but he then feels like, you know what? In case you didn't pick up on it, I'm just going to have Mel Gibson
Shows
flat
that-
out
They
say.
do
Yeah.
have those ping pong dialogue scenes that are really just
They're just
right.
not natural.
They're a manifest. Nothing in the movie is natural.
No,
which
not even
I'm
the
okay
characters,
with
yeah.
because at
Yeah.
least
Well,
nothing in the movie.
You were
It felt
saying
more
that.
like storytelling and less like reality, which
Yes.
I'm fine with, but I still think a little subtlety goes a long way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought I would hate this, and I kind of liked it.
I do
But
too.
every time, especially towards the end,
Ben,
Ben?
I think we picked up someone else's.
Turn that shit
I
off.
don't know how to turn it off. I thought
Oh my
I
God,
turned it
it's
off.
the
It's the aliens.
The aliens.
Because there's the baby monitor scene.
I was just going to say, every time I wanted them to pull back, like 5%,
They
he
push
like
forward.
laid on 10%.
Yep.
And that just makes you like walk away being like, nope.
We talked about the one visual in particular earlier about the cross no longer being on the wall.
Yeah.
You're right.
How
yes.
much mud M. Night Shyamalan had them sling at that to be like, yeah, we see
To
it.
make sure there used
Yeah.
to be a
Look at
cross
this
on the
one
wall,
clean
yeah.
spot.
And I try to be like, oh man, those farms in Pennsylvania, they get a little dusty, it
Yeah.
might just be.
No. That was
No.
like
but
Sharpie.
the rest of they
But-
just drew an outline around
But we
it.
should talk about this is the fourth movie he's made now.
Yeah.
Where about a person who's grappling with a crisis of faith.
Yes.
And it's just like Wide Awake, it is a movie that's very specifically about someone who has lost their Christian faith. And then
He's a Hindu man who grew up going to Catholic schools.
Right.
I think is very
Yeah.
important.
Yep.
and at the end of this movie, his faith is rewarded explicitly. It's like God exists and it has a hand in
And is a fan
faith.
of yours. Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah,
have
right.
to
It's actually,
believe,
yeah.
you're one of the chosen.
He's rooting for you, and I am God, M. Night Shyamalan.
And in this movie, in Wide Awake,
Yeah.
this movie is very Wide Awakey.
very.
In Wide Awake, it's this little boy. All right, shut up.
brushing his teeth, and he's asleep.
It's a scene.
That's a Wide Awake reference.
In Wide Awake, the kid lost his grandpa.
Yes.
In this movie, he lost his wife, but he's
Yes.
blaming God is responsible, or not. It's more like when he lost his wife, he's like, there's no higher power here. Something
Yeah.
this terrible, this bizarre to have happened. How could this? How could there possibly be a divine presence in the world? Right?
Yeah.
That's the inciting incident for this whole movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he's like, "Yeah, no. It turns out I've put the collar back on."
You know what I don't
Yeah.
get about it,
Yeah.
though? This is probably me, knowing nothing about religion. But I feel like if you were that deep into your Christian faith that you were a minister, that, your wife dying would be horrible, but wouldn't make you question your faith. Because the only thing you preach all day long is, God has a plan, and the good comes with the bad.
But I think
and you're
that's where
tested. But
he's.
if you still have 2 children you love, and,
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, even though that's horrendous, I'm like, then what the point was?
I almost
what's
think it
being
makes
a
it
minister?
more of a monumental break from the faith, though. If you
Yeah.
were someone who was
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah,
it
but
is.
I
It's like
think-
I believe there's a plan, but if
if
this
somebody
is the plan, then
dying
fuck
though
you.
makes you question it, you shouldn't be a
Sure,
minister
sure.
because
Well,
you're dealing with people who
you
have that
know-
shit happen every day.
Yeah.
This is all right. So the pivotal scene in this movie, in my opinion, is the scene where he eats the mashed potatoes and he cries.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
and
the
they
best
all
scene
hug.
in the movie.
That is
Yeah.
the best scene.
It's
I felt
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Diana's making a face right now where she's just like, "What is the matter with David right now?"
No, that was a scene.
That's the scene where it's like this whole movie. It looks like he's about to just
Snap.
snap.
Right.
He's going to
Yeah.
start killing
He's yelling
people.
at
He's
his
going to
kids.
scream at his kids. Yeah, and then he's like, "Look, we're going to fucking eat. Everyone's going to eat their favorite food, right?" So I can't even remember. One of them wants mashed potatoes and French toast.
Walk
Yeah.
wants
Spaghetti.
Abigail Breslin wants spaghetti. Walk wants teriyaki chicken teriyaki.
which is
Yeah, chicken
He
teriyaki.
lives in Bucks
County.
County,
Yeah,
Pennsylvania.
you're not gonna get any good chicken teriyaki.
Dummy.
And I can't remember. Does he want a steak or something? What does Gibson want?
without-
cheeseburger with
Cheeseburger.
bacon, extra bacon.
with bacon.
Without going to the store though, he just had all of that.
He had all the ingredients.
all of it.
Look,
That was
I mean,
distracting
he's
for me.
prepared. Yeah, the teriyaki is the one that's a real stretch.
do.
You see spaghetti, French toast, potatoes, sure, fine.
They do hard cut from everyone naming their order, which I almost thought was a joke scene, as in The Sixth Sense when Tony Collette's like, and then I won the lottery.
Right,
The
yeah,
joke
yeah,
is
yeah.
we can't eat anything, so let's pretend what we would have in a perfect world.
And then
and
it's
then
like,
it
no,
cuts
we made
to
it.
shot a teriyaki bottle
I
on
wish
the
there was
counter,
a shot of Gibson
bacon in a bowl.
making French
Yeah.
Yes,
toast,
a
like
little
dipping the
montage
bread.
even would have went a long way.
But it cuts instead to a montage of the ingredients splayed on the
Splayed,
table
yeah.
post-cook. Yeah.
So anyway, he's doing this insane thing.
Yeah.
He's making them eat their favorite food to distract from the fact that aliens have
That they
invaded
may
the Earth.
die.
They're all gonna
Or, like,
die.
hanging
It's
out
like a
outside their
last
house.
meal
Yeah.
reference, though. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
it.
sort of the idea,
Yeah.
right? And then he screams at Culkin. He screams at his son?
Yes.
yeah,
And his son basically is blaming him
He said,
for
"I
his
hate
mother.
you."
Yeah, I hate you,
Yeah.
and for the mother's death. And then he like breaks down and he just drags them all
They
into
all-
his center.
When he
Well, the
grabs
first-
Joaquin's
See, that's
shirt.
another joke. That's another Shyamalan little winky joke,
But
which is fun.
before he breaks down, he's like eating and crying.
Yeah.
Which I'll say the making of I really am into this making of documentary that I watched. Shyamalan says like it's really hard for someone when they're acting to eat and cry, and I didn't realize that when I wrote the script. But it's two different two different things that you have to do. So he was very impressed with Gibson for getting that down. He eats and cries.
Yeah, he does a good job.
I feel like a lot of people do that all the time, though.
Eat and
Yeah.
cry. I feel like if I start crying like he's
You eat your
crying, I'm
feelings.
like, all right, I'll get to this food in 1 second.
Right. Yeah. Why would you actually continue
I don't need
to
to
shovel
eat this
bites
right
into your mouth?
now.
Yeah.
My
when you're
tears are the
mentally.
appetizer. This is the main course,
Yep.
all in due time.
So
Yeah.
that was where I was watching this movie and I was like, yeah, this movie's really goofy and it's like super unrealistic, like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's sort of like, and then that scene really got me and I thought it was great. And I was like, yeah, this is what this movie's about, this emotional breakthrough that he has to make, right? About his
Yeah.
wife being dead. And then there's like a lot more movie and there's like an ending that's bad.
Well,
Yep.
let's go
Yep.
back to the beginning. Let's
And-
track this movie a little bit because
yeah. Do we need to track it?
I kind of do.
Yeah, go ahead,
It
of
won't
course.
take a lot of time because this movie is kind of like
It's very straightforward.
it's very straightforward. But I know Diana has a lot of notes about the very beginning of the film.
Okay, the opening credits I thought were garbage.
So you've worked. Let's just for our listeners, Diana, you've worked in graphic design.
Yes.
You've worked.
Design,
You've done book covers,
illustration.
posters, illustration.
Right.
This is an expertise of yours. Right.
Right. So I feel like they were trying to mimic the like telescope kind of thing, but they came in so soft with a vignette that it looked like an old movie. So the beginning of this felt like a romantic movie from like the 1940s.
Yeah, the
like
font.
it was
It's
so
big letters,
unfitting,
right.
And they're
It's
so
blue.
yeah,
They're
there's
very
blue
different
haze.
color scheme than the rest of the
dusty
film.
blue, and there's
Yeah.
the serif font, which feels very old timey and classic and like romantic. So to me, it just was a bad match.
Yeah.
The music's kind of Hitchcock.
Well, and
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
the
Big
opening credits.
Hitchcock.
if I remember
Yeah.
this right, at first the letters are just sort of fading on screen, and then they start like going like smashing
Yeah,
onto the
like-
screen later.
Right.
Like it's like the music builds to more tension.
And M.
then-
Night Shyamalan's film is like an M. Night Shyamalan film, and then when they get to the credits, it's like Mel Gibson, Rory Culkin, like they're like yelling them at you.
It's true.
They're like popping.
So you
They
didn't
got
like
really-
those. I agree with you. Also, there's a powder blue background to them.
That's
which
just
is,
distracting. It doesn't
odd.
have to be great, but if you're going so far genre, why not match the genre?
I know.
Like
it's odd.
it pissed me off.
Also, the color palette of this movie is like the greens and
Greens.
browns.
Greens are- yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Blue is like a color we're not seeing any of.
No,
in
it's
this
a
movie.
it's a very autumnal sort of
Yes.
American movie. Like
It's rustic.
amber
Also-
waves of green.
Also,
Yeah.
the time period with which it was set was, I would say, early 90s. Does that feel right?
I don't know.
Oh, when is this movie
When is
set?
the
Yeah,
film
'cause it was-
set?
It's a fair question.
But they had
Great
VHS, they had
Yeah, they
radios.
have VHS.
Do you
like,
see anyone with a
The
cell phone?
town
No.
that they're in
No
is
cell phones.
real old timey.
Real
That's true.
old-timey.
Bucks County, I've been there. It's
Right,
probably
you're,
10 years
you're
behind.
a Pennsylvanian, Murf.
Yeah.
Right. That's good. We're getting Pennsylvanian guests. I like it.
I thought it was like
Keystone
90s.
State. Yeah, I felt
Because
like
it was pre-internet. They're
Yes.
watching everything on the news.
Well,
No
Michael
one's
Showalter,
Googling
so
stuff.
that it must have been that character must have been he just got off the state. Right, he's playing Michael Showalter in the film.
he's
right?
straight up playing
yeah,
Showalter.
Right.
Yeah, just
So I'm saying
heckling
the
Joaquin.
character's name is Michael Showalter.
Michael Showalter.
I was
Go
shocked.
get a fucking failed CBS
His name is
special.
actually Lionel Pritchard.
Yeah, well, he's the guy that they keep on saying. I think it's Lionel Pritchard and his boys.
Yes, they think he's
I
the
didn't
one.
put that together.
Yeah.
Hassling
So
them,
he's
yeah.
playing like the bad boy. He's
Yep.
playing
Yeah.
like the sort of rough element.
That
Right.
was so
He's like, you also got
Diana,
the
what else
strikeout
do you have
record,
to
huh?
say?
I also wrote down Bad Children of the Corn. But
Sure.
that was in like the first 10 minutes.
Well, that's
Yeah.
when the kids have gone missing in the cornfield.
Well,
Yep.
another thing that really bothered me is there was a path in the corn, but instead of using the path, they kept just running through the corn.
and they,
Yeah.
run, they run fast.
There's no
too.
time for paths.
Can I say something I really like about this movie?
Yeah.
It just gets straight to the point.
It does.
It's got these
Well,
credits.
what I like about the movie, he wakes up and he's like, something fucked up is happening.
There's
That's
like-
like the first scene in the movie.
There's
Yes.
like no dialogue for the
Yeah.
first like 4 minutes. He wakes up, he goes, he sees the kids. Then it cuts to Walk sitting up in bed, Guacamole, and he's like looking, and he's freaked out too. Then they both run out. He's living in sort of the barn next door. Mel Gibson runs out of the house. They meet in the lawn. They're looking. They're like, "Where are the kids? What's going on?" They run out to the fields.
Directly through the corn.
Right.
Yep.
But the opening of the movie is just like they feel it in their bones. Something's weird.
And it's Culkin has to be like, check it out, buddy. Crop circle.
Oh, yeah,
crop
yeah.
circle.
Look-
you know,
Well, because
look
they're
over
both
here.
out there,
Right.
right? That's what
Yeah.
it is.
So that's
yes.
what they- yeah.
They look in the rooms. The kids
Which
aren't
is another
there.
creepy Children of the Corn kind of thing, where the two kids are just silently
And
staring.
they were
They're
off.
searching
like
for the kid.
trance-like.
Yeah.
They're like, There's
Right.
something in my bed. I need water. Like it
Breslin's
felt like they
got
were
that
under sort
monotone
of
robot
spell.
voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's like
She's so
minute
cute, though.
4 or 5, and then
Right.
Sherry
Mm-hmm.
Jones comes in, and the next scene is like, how did this happen? And it's just the two of them
Yeah,
trying to figure it out, and they
they're
get
like,
into
oh,
like
is it the bad boy? Is it Lionel?
detail. Is that Showalter
Showalter-
kid?
Did Showalter
Did he
come
do a
peeling
type
up on his
5
Harley?
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I mean, I still am, but was so obsessed with Wet Hot American Summer at the time that this film came out. It was like so my like secret movie because I had to like show it to friends because no one had heard of it.
Yeah.
That I was so thrilled when Michael Showalter came on screen that I think I probably had a tough time paying attention to the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
when
it
I
was
saw it in
jarring to
theaters.
me this time around
Yeah.
when I saw it. It
It's
was hard
crazy
to,
that he's in it.
It made no sense.
No.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
but he's silly again.
Joaquin
as you
does
would
that
expect
thing
him
where
to be.
Joaquin kind of flexes at him, and he Showalter's like, you know, like
We all
jerks out
just
of the way.
flinched
Yeah,
for
that's
the
it.
listeners.
It is weird because he like didn't really do any dramatic acting other than this. Like it's not like he was one of those guys where it's like, oh, before he was a comedian, he showed up in a lot of movies playing like,
Nope.
oh, it's like Margaret Cho in Face Off. You know, it's
Yeah.
not like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
man,
like-
Margaret Cho and Face Off.
Great performance. But it is
It
like
was.
you watch him in this, you're like, this is a total one-off of him being in a movie like this.
It's
Yeah.
true. I can't find many other examples.
Never
like,
again.
Going
No.
through his like.
Did he ever even do like a Law and Order earlier in his career?
Well, he was in a Sex in the City.
Oh, right.
Mm.
He's in Kissing Jessica Stein, but that's
that's a small part too.
that's a comedy.
That was a comedy.
Let it not be unsaid. Very handsome in this film.
Yeah.
Handsome dude.
Handsome guy.
He just looks goofy to me, but I think it's because I just saw this last night for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting there thinking like comedian.
Right,
Like
right.
when he popped on screen, I was like, what the? Like,
He's no Murf Meyer. I mean, let's
I mean,
No.
hey,
call it.
Who
hell,
is?
hell.
Yeah,
Oh,
right. There's one.
There's only one.
no, he has like that big hair, and it's the same scene with the insane army recruiter guy.
Yeah.
Yes, that was.
So
it
I
was also
thought
hard
the
to get your
movie-
bearings in
I
that
thought
scene.
the movie had just taken a total left-hand turn at that point. I was
Yeah,
like,
you were stunned at when that
the
that
cadence with
recruiter-
which that guy talked was insane.
And you're
That scene
cross-cutting.
is
Yeah.
bizarre.
You're cross-cutting between that scene and Merritt Weaver having the emotional breakdown at the pharmacy. Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
three really hijinksy, not hijinksy, but
No,
like
they are. Well, and then
Lynchian, I
also
think is the right term.
Culkin in the bookstore, and the guy's like, soda ads! It's all about soda ads!
yeah,
all
there's that
the things
character,
happening
yep.
are very like sort
That
of
was-
surreal and heightened.
The one where he goes 13 and she goes soda. And the
Yeah,
ad,
the ad
I
is
was
just
laughing.
forced soda.
I thought
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it was
yeah.
actually a crazy conspiracy.
I
at
wish
that
they
point.
pushed
Yeah.
further in that direction.
Yeah, that it was
'cause
just
could have
a
been.
whole.
That
It was
could
a
have been
soda. That's the twist.
Interesting.
That was very
Yeah.
funny to me.
One thing that's weird is that Rory Culkin checks out a book about aliens, and that the book seems to contain all knowledge of what the actual alien invasion is.
That's
Yes.
I said.
Yeah.
I was like, now, okay, so aliens. Everyone agrees this is a real thing. This is happening.
Sure.
Now every quack who wrote a fucking alien book is now just
And
is
his,
right
His
about
theories are
everything.
basically like aliens could be peaceful or they could be hostile.
Well,
Yeah.
let's just say in the time between the scene where Cherry Jones comes and is like, they're bent, they're not broken. What? No machine could do this. And the stuff we're talking about where they go into town and they have their three silly side adventures.
Right.
Essentially what happens in the 30 to 25 minutes in between is just the kids are like, think something weird's going on here, and Mel tries to rationalize it.
yeah, and
Yep.
he's like, "Don't watch TV. Don't listen to the
Right.
radio." Yeah,
now,
yeah, yeah.
watching it for the first time in theaters, I was like, I don't know what's going on. M. Night's not going to make it aliens. He never shoots that straight. It's going to be some wacky turn.
Yep.
It's not a twist. He's going to go in an unexpected
Yeah,
direction.
sure. Right.
So the whole time there was all this tension to like, what's going on? What is it? Watching it again now, I was really bored through this section before they go back into town.
A little
because
bit.
it's like, accept that they're aliens, Mel.
yeah.
Like Mel and Walk are just like, no, it has to be something else. And it's like, well, fucking blue leg. You saw a blue leg.
saw the blue leg.
You were in a cornfield, and like it was a
Yeah,
lady in
blue
a
leg.
fucking like old Looney Tunes cartoon trying to get a guy
Yep,
pick her up
like,
on the side of the road. It's
Yeah.
like one leg sticking out, like a nice gam.
Nice little gam.
It was like a
we rewound
sexy,
that.
flirtatious.
We had a 10-minute
Yeah.
conversation about
We
that gam
rewound
because
it
That leg looked
bunch.
really sexy,
it
right?
did.
But it was
looked-
very human looking, which was my
Other than the
issue.
But then
foot.
just blue.
the foot is like a web situation.
Yeah.
It looked like.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but Murph was like that. It wasn't like a tentacle.
No.
It was
No,
human.
It was human enough to
Yeah.
turn you on, but then when you actually get into it, you're like,
Amazing form, like really strong muscle
like
definition.
a runner.
Yes.
It was like
Yeah.
a runner's leg
Yeah.
painted
it was.
turquoise.
Yeah, it was like incredible.
Two things. Why does the lady know exactly where that book is in the bookshelf store? She's like third shelf, second book.
movie
It's so
logic
weird.
for
Oh,
you,
she
right?
also
That's a guy
says-
hailing a cab when he gets out of a bank or
But
whatever.
that was very. I felt like that was a joke
She also
because they're in a
says,
huge bookstore and she like knows the exact
Hey, man.
quadrants.
Diana, I want to
small
remind you.
town. It's a small town.
They go, do you have any books on aliens? And the guy's like, no. And then she's like, wait, there is that one book they shipped it to us by mistake, but we never sent it back.
And I know exactly where it is.
You don't need to justify having that book.
Yeah, you
No.
can just
They
go,
do.
I think there's something over there. Check in that section. Instead, they're like, it's the mythical, fated book.
But
Which
everything
made me
is
think there was going to be a
faded.
twist.
Yeah.
But there's also, in the book, of course, there's this fucking picture that they look at. Like, they're going through all the
And
different
that was
diagrams.
creepy.
The picture is a
Yeah.
house
So
that looks
scary.
exactly like their house.
It's cool.
Yep.
And then on the lawn outside are an adult man and 2 children.
On fire?
Dead.
Weren't they on
Yeah,
fire?
dead.
The
They're,
people
like,
are
silhouetted.
dead.
They
The
weren't on
house
fire.
is on fire.
Yeah, they
The
look like
house.
burned.
The second thing, besides
And Mel
the
Gibson's
book,
like, "Oh, looks like our house." Like it's like he doesn't have like a big.
It's not a big reaction
to it.
to
And
it.
Abigail
no.
Breslin goes, those are our windows. Like, she notices the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry, the second thing is when the cop is like talking about women in the Olympics for like
love
an
it.
hour.
Love it.
That's yeah.
That
where
was so
where Mel
bizarre.
Gibson's like, well, look,
Oh, yeah,
no
that
human
scene.
could run this fast, and she's like, oh, women Olympics, they run that fast in the Olympics. And he's like, well, he jumped. Oh, long jump. That's an event in the
I
Olympics.
think
She's like, women in the Olympics
Scandinavian,
jump
I believe
over
she
your
calls it.
house.
The Scandinavian Olympic.
It's like after a while, Mel Gibson's like, okay, well, barring an Olympic athlete.
And then her like last line, her like closer, her button on the dialogue before they cut to a new scene is like, just saying, got to keep all possibilities open.
Yeah.
Which makes you think like the movie's going to explain why it's not aliens. And
Yep.
instead
Right.
it's
And
like,
it's gonna be,
no, it's just
yeah.
aliens. That section I found a little tedious to watch. There's
Yeah.
good craft on display, but it's like, we know, it's aliens.
Okay, but then let's push through.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So they go into town, they get the book. Joaquin Phoenix thinks about signing up for the
The
military.
town is exposition time.
Yes.
It's everybody gets some filled in stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You see Shyamalan scurry away.
Oh, right. He makes eye
Shyamalan.
contact.
So M. Night Shyamalan plays
Ray Reddy?
Ray Reddy in this movie, which is the person who fell asleep at the wheel and killed Mel Gibson's wife.
Now,
This is one of the 2 things I think that keeps this movie from being an A in my book. I will say that.
I
It's
certainly
it's
do not
cameo.
disagree with you. He's not helping matters.
He's fucking terrible, and this is this is a role.
it's a good role.
Think about this, yes, and this
Yeah.
is the moment where you could see Gibson trying.
Yeah.
Where they have their interaction finally, where you're just like, this character needs. This is not a throwaway. There's a lot of cameos you could have in this movie. This doesn't need to be one of them.
Thing where Gibson goes to his house.
Yeah.
And Reddy's
he
in
gets
the
a phone
car.
call. He gets a phone call.
Yeah.
Yep.
He goes, "Father," and he goes, "Ray," and he hangs up. And then he starts to think maybe Ray's responsible for these hijinks that have been happening around because he still
Right.
thinks it's hooligans.
Yeah, sure.
So he goes to Ray's
hooligans,
house.
crop circles.
Yeah.
And he goes to Ray's house. Ray's
But
outside.
he's a veterinarian, which is weird too because
Yeah.
they've already
Oh,
set up
that's right.
all the animals are turning on people. So you
Oh,
expect
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and then there's nothing about
Yeah,
that.
there's
No.
nothing on
There are
that.
a lot of breadcrumbs in this movie that you think are gonna like
No bread.
no bread.
No bread, breadcrumbs to
Very
just an
well
empty.
put. Kolsky.
Thank you.
He goes to the house. Ray Reddy is sitting in his car.
He's been attacked.
He's got a small wound on
Yeah,
his
he's
side,
been hurt. Yeah.
and he's like he got a far off look in his eye.
And he's just burdened with guilt.
Now, in Praying with Anger, M. Night Shyamalan's first film, M. Night plays a young man with an anger problem from Philadelphia who's sent off to try to reconnect with his heritage in India and study there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they keep on going, this kid's got a temper, he's got a bad problem, he used to get in fights. And he has the scene where he gives the explanation of like, it's not true. There was just one time this guy was getting in my face and I pushed him and he happened to fall down the stairs and he got really injured. And it's like a freak occurrence. Like, I didn't mess him up that badly. Luck made the accident look worse than it was. And I feel like the speech he gives Mel Gibson where he's like saying like, never fall asleep at the wheel. I think if it had been a second earlier, I just would have hit a car, like a tree.
Yep.
The only reason my life was saved was because she was walking by at that moment. It's sort of a weird inverse of that Praying with Anger speech where he's like robbing himself of any culpability. And he's also saying like, look at destiny, how it like, it
That's
took away
the thing.
your life
It's a
but
scene
saved
that's
my
about
life.
like, all these things are weird and connected, and like
It's
there
a
is
scene
some.
that should have been played by an actor.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the thing
Yep.
because it could be a dynamo scene.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the table is set for the stakes emotionally of this moment where this man confronts and all this other shit's going on.
What if
The
it was-
world's crumbling around him. There's aliens now. Everything is fucking.
There's aliens now.
There's
So,
fucking aliens.
in the making of,
Yeah.
M. Night says this is very important to him that he played this character, and he wanted to.
Why come?
Well, all he really says is like it's just he was really interested in like going further, and doing more
As an actor?
No, well, I think that means like acting.
Yeah.
I'm an A+ director, A+ writer, A+ producer. I gotta try acting. And he says that in that scene when they were setting up the shot, Mel Gibson was like, "Oh, you're in this?" and Knight was like, yeah, I hope that's okay. Like he was like a little nervous. He also says a bunch of sad stuff about like his grandfather had just died, so he was trying to like channel those emotions and stuff like
That's all
like
well and good, but somebody's got to say no. I mean, this speaks to the blank check
this
of
is
your
the
podcast.
Thing.
But
this is the thing. No
someone's
one can
got to
say
no.
no.
At some
No one
point.
can say no to this.
But this arc of him using
But I
himself
just
in
love the
films-
idea of Gibson being like,
Yeah.
you're in this. You're this guy.
It probably was like the line of logic too. He's probably like, "Oh, that's weird. Like he's a pretty big name director. He's standing in for the actor. That's odd. He's going to stand in for him. Oh, that's a good guy.
Yeah. Is he the same height as the guy?
Interesting,
Or are
yeah.
they going to fuck up the lighting?
Yeah.
First film, he is the lead, right? Praying with Anger.
Sure,
he
but that's
plays
explained
the lead.
away. You know, come on. I mean,
I know,
he's-
but I'm just looking at the arc of this, right? Okay, it's your first film. You have a little interest in acting. You want to test it out. It's
Makes sense.
cheaper. You make yourself
And
5
that's
jobs
the
in
NYU
one.
You don't
students,
trust
they're
other
all
people with
making-
your
Right.
with your material. Like,
Right.
I kind of know what
It
the
was
fuck
very
this needs to be.
autobiographical. All
Sure.
that makes sense. Wide Awake, he is not in at all. Sixth Sense, he has one solid
Yeah,
scene
he's
where he
a
plays a doctor.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he's perfectly fine,
Fine.
in it.
Yes,
I
that's
think
the
he
kind of
actually-
director cameo. If you want it, that's the one you go for.
He's
Sure,
mostly
right.
delivering exposition. He's playing a guy who's straight business, straight talk.
All right, let's not go too deep into his.
Okay, but I
doctor
think he does
Yeah.
good work.
Unbreakable.
You said that in
silent
behind the
role.
scenes, like you read some interview with him where he said that
It was an
regretted
homage to his parents. Oh yeah, and then
you
he
said,
regretted.
right,
yeah, right,
that he
yeah.
cast himself as a doctor because his parents were doctors, and it was a reference to that. But that he regretted casting himself in the film because he thought it was distracting.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next film, smaller role. Okay, Unbreakable.
It's a silent role.
He
Yeah.
sees the guy. He goes, "Excuse me, sir." He gives him a pat down. He goes, "I was wrong." Right? He thinks the guy has a gun. That's the scene. Right? It's like half a second. It's a nice little hat tip to us nighters.
It's a Hitchcock.
The
thing.
Knights
It's
of
like, here I
Shyamalan.
am, yeah.
Right? Okay. And then this film, he's like, you know what? I think it's time to give myself.
He's the sixth lead.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
it's
yeah,
the
what this-
family, then Cherry Jones, then him. Like
It's
this
again
is
why I want to
important.
apologize for Mel, because here's a moment, and it's all, I mean, every fucking thing is just about walking away from a movie to be like, yeah, it was another movie about aliens, but the moments that could have been there, that could have been an interesting, where you're like, Mel, what have you got? You're facing this guy. I feel like Mel tried, but what the hell are you playing
He
off?
looks nonplussed.
He was still waiting for
looks-
the actor to
yeah.
show
Yeah.
up the whole time he was doing that
A
fucking scene.
good character actor in that weird role would have just been
Would have been great.
awesome.
A Michael
Yeah.
Showalter, for
Showalter.
example. Showalter would have been
Wow.
really good.
M. Night, be the tough guy, the town bully rascal who everyone thinks is to blame for these crop circles, but don't be the guy who.
That is great that the
cut your
film
wife
presents like the two crazy guys, these hooligans, well-known like rebel rousers in town who might be causing trouble are Michael Showalter and M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah,
They're just like dweebs.
this town is really rough.
The
around the
bad
edges.
boys of cinema.
So they're eating at the diner and they look out and they see him like sheepishly get into his car.
Right.
Yeah.
That was like the first hint of that guy.
Mhm.
Then he gets the call. So he like goes to Cherry Jones and is like, "What's up with Ray Raddish?" She's like, "I don't know." Goes to his house. He's bloody.
He had
It's
just
a
tussled
speech.
with an alien.
Well, then he
and
says at the
managed to get
end-
it in the locked in the cupboard.
Yeah, he goes, "Whatever you do, don't open
Love
the
to see that
pantry.
scene.
Don't open the pantry."
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, why are you telling him what to do? Why is he going into your house?
Why would you
anyway?
assume he's just going? Yeah, exactly.
Because
But
Mel
that-
Gibson's like a cop.
Right. Then
That's-
Mel
Okay.
does proceed to go in the house.
Yeah, goes in the house, pretends to be a cop.
One of the more effective
I
scenes
think
of
this
tension.
is a great scene.
Yep.
And this is a great use of film language. It's all about he gets out a big knife and
The
he's trying to
reflection.
use the reflection of the knife under the door
Mhm.
to see it. And so you're only seeing what he sees in the reflection and the camera's just covering. It's really fucking well done.
It's so good, and he does. I like the comedy of where he's pretending to be a cop briefly, and he's like
Yeah.
making faces while he's like, "I'll get the paddy
Oh, yeah.
wagon." He's like, oh,
And he
paddy
keeps on
wagon.
going
But
and then
that
walking
I
away and
didn't
then coming
like.
back.
I like
After
it.
he says paddy wagon, he mouths paddy wagon.
Yeah.
That's a perfect instance of just how like a look would be better.
Yes, I agree.
Of him like rolling his eyes at himself.
You know what other moment I find supremely effective, although at the time of seeing it, I was like, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen in a movie, and watching it this time, I was like, that's good.
Which is,
The Mexican birthday party.
oh, I love that scene still.
I do too,
think
but
it's so
I
good.
used to cite that as the number one scariest scene in all of cinema.
Okay, well that's not.
Because I had seen 7 movies at that point or whatever, you know?
But I think that scene is really cool
that scene
because
was incredibly cool. Yeah.
it's set up with like this footage is disturbing, and so
Yeah.
you're like, oh, is there going to be like a dead kid?
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking
The
like, this is gonna
expectations
be
are so
weird
high.
and
Yeah.
gory.
It's also
And, like-
before a lot of those. This is before Blair Witch. Yes.
No, it's
no,
after
this
No,
Blair
it
was
was
Witch.
after.
This was after.
But it's
But it
that
felt
before that
very
found
real.
footage
There had-
wave
yes.
came of
Yeah.
all
There hadn't
that
been
shit.
many copycats.
Right.
Because even Blair Witch 2 was not found footage, and then found footage as a genre didn't really pick up again until Cloverfield.
Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it had that effect. I think it
Yes,
was
100%. And here's the thing I like about it a lot. It's building up all this tension. You see the kids' faces. They're looking over the window. They're all looking at something. They're reacting to something. They're screaming. It's in Spanish, so you don't know what they're saying.
Right.
They
Portuguese.
presented it Portuguese. They present it as being frightening.
Brazil.
All this stuff is going on, and then the kids go, ah, and they run over to a different direction. The camera moves over, and you're like, what's going on? What's going to go? Is something scary going to happen? They're looking. You see across the street, and then the speed at which the alien walks by.
Yeah.
The obvious thing to do would be to have the alien run by really quickly.
No, but
and
it
it's a
just
quick
sort of
jolt.
sidles by.
It can also go really slowly and start creeping towards the camera. It just walks by at a casual pace.
Very casual.
It's
Well,
very
and
blurry,
then-
very out of focus, and somehow the scariest of all realities.
Yeah. Well, I think it was an important moment for me the first time seeing it because it's after that gam, after we get a peek at that, you're
What a
wondering,
sexy
would I
gam.
lay down with these aliens? It's the first time you now know for certain I wouldn't fuck these aliens.
Okay.
Because you see them in full body, and I mean,
they're also
it's just not for me.
They're kind of
not for me.
CGI blurs. They're not like there's not a lot of definition to like.
He tries to cut it both ways because on one
Yeah.
hand he made these aliens CGI. The CGI I don't think exactly where
It
was where
stinks.
they needed it to
sucks.
be.
It fucking
bad.
stinks.
It's
and
really fucking bad. I even remember it being bad at the time. It's not even that
yeah.
it's
No,
aged
it was
poorly.
bad.
No.
Jar Jar Binks is better than this.
That
shit.
should have been
Yes.
a puppet.
that's what we said.
saying.
This
Should've
was,
been
that was the
Zoo.
second thing
Could've
that
been
ruined this
Because
fucking
they
movie
were
for me.
so human-ish that
Yes.
that didn't need to be
I know.
CGI.
Do a
I don't know
practical
why they're not
effects
puppets.
there.
Well,
Put
and
somebody
here's
in
the
a
other
cool
thing. Most of the
fucking
time
alien costume.
he's showing them in shadows, in silhouette.
Yes.
Even there's one
Reflections.
clear
Yep.
shot. Right. Yes, reflections.
The TV
there's-
reflection is a really good.
It's
thing.
so
creepy.
good.
Yeah,
but there's
that's
like the
good.
one clear shot where you see him standing there holding. He could be she. Look at me being heteronormative over here. But there's this.
The
one
lifeless kind of
Yes,
body.
lifeless Kieran Culkin in his arms. And that one shot, you sort of get a full body. But other than that, even after that reveal, they keep on going back to you're seeing him through the window. You're seeing reflection.
Yep.
The alien's out of focus in the background. It's like, well, if you're not going to show it in that great detail, especially now rewatching it, like, because the first time you're watching it, you don't know if it's going to be aliens or not or whatever. But even when at the beginning of the movie, when you see the alien up on the roof and it's in silhouette, I'm like,
Yes.
I can tell that's a computer silhouette.
Yeah.
And why not just put a guy
Why
in
not
a
make
fucking,
a real fucking silhouette?
You know what I
You know,
thought at
because
the end?
there's no weird shape you have
It's
to
like you're really
accomplish.
good with your camera, man. Like fucking, you're a good visual director. Just get a practical
Just a
thing
tall
up there
guy
to
in the
shoot,
shadows.
and I'm sure you can light it well, and I'm sure you can shoot it well.
And if you even need to, for one shot, CGI up the fucking actor's face to make it look more alien or
but
whatever.
Here's why they didn't do it.
why didn't
Because
they?
it's camouflaged, and because they have that
Oh,
scene
the
where
change-
at the
Oh,
end where
yeah.
his skin is matching. Now, I'm not saying this was a good decision,
Right.
but I think they were like, well, we have this one set piece where
Yeah.
the alien is in full view and it needs to change color and
But
shit.
you know what I thought at the end was they had that great scene where they're like, "Oh, the ships are still here; they're just invisible now because the bird had died."
Mm-hmm.
So when I was only seeing him in reflections and never seeing it, and I thought for a second it was invisible, and they just saw the sun like levitated, and they knew they haven't really left because they were like, they left, and I was like, that's so slick if we can only see him vampire style, like reverse.
Yeah,
in
that'd be
reflections. But then you just see him
Yeah.
standing in the living room, and it's
I
like
know.
this terrible,
and
shitty
he does
CGI.
he like sprays him.
Oh
he
my
does
God.
a bunch of business.
I was like, this
and then
is
once
just
again, they need to they need
garbage.
to insult our intelligence. Or even just our attention span to go.
I was
They show the
insulted.
fingers cut, and we're like, yeah, that's the same alien.
Yeah,
we get it.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, now we got to
Oh,
flash
yeah, when they
back
flash
to
back,
showing
yeah.
him cut
Yeah,
the
we-
fucking
and also
fingers.
who
20
cares
minutes
that it's
ago.
the
Exactly,
same
that wasn't
alien?
even that long ago.
Yep.
I didn't even think it mattered that it was the same alien.
Make it a cool little thing where you'd be like, oh, if you notice the fingers, and you go, it's the same alien. But yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise, what's the
But to me, what's scary is aliens taking over everything. It's not that one that you met a couple days
Yeah.
ago
Right,
Well,
finding you. Like,
I
who
think
cares?
he wants it to be like there's
There's
just
only one.
the alien.
Well,
Like,
no,
this is
because
so small.
They
It's
say
like,
in the
yeah,
news report
right.
that the aliens had some sort of toxic gas
They-
that people in small towns
they
have
packed
found
it up and-
some solution, some way to fight them, but they don't know what it is
Like,
yet. So
It's
the
spraying
news,
them
asthma.
with garden
the news?
hoses.
Yeah, good fucking.
but that's
news
great. The
report.
news is going, hey, apparently there's a really easy way that people with no means have found to kill the aliens. We don't know what it is.
More to come at 8:00.
Right, exactly.
That
And then
hell
they
of a
say
teaser.
it seems most of them have left, although they have left behind some of their injured
Right.
on this planet. So I think
Right.
the idea is because
So,
this
yeah,
guy's
he's
missing
injured.
2 fingers, what he
Right.
can't give the shocker anymore. They have to
Jesus.
leave him on Earth.
They're
Yep.
running a tight ship up there.
He's still going to stick 2 in the pink. You need that one in the stink so badly. Come on.
I think you just did a
Do they even
Shyamalan.
have
We
this
got it
thing?
when you said he can't do the shocker.
I'm going method.
I wanted to say another Wide Awake connection is that Joaquin Phoenix watches TV under the stairs, just like in Wide Awake, the kid
Yeah.
living under the stairs. Why does Joaquin Phoenix go into the TV
to
under
keep
the
the
stairs?
kids from watching the news because it
Oh,
was
of
upsetting.
course, right,
You know what
that's
I
it,
love about
right.
it though? There's a scene where Mel Gibson opens the closet and grabs his coat out like it's a normal closet,
Right, yeah,
and
yeah.
then later Joaquin puts his head
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
and you're like, he's still in the closet, guys.
And I do
It was
like
funny.
I
That
do,
was a fun
and the making of Shyamalan said like most of the because I think the reason the scene we were talking about the TV scene
Mm-hmm.
works is not just that it's really cool, but then Joaquin like reacts like
his
really
reaction's
strong,
so good,
goes way into the the coats,
Yeah.
and apparently he did lots of reactions, and eventually Shyamalan was like, "Go into the coats, go all the way back," and Joaquin was like, "Really? Like you want me?" But it works. It's good. You would have that reaction. It would be that freaky.
Do you know Mark Ruffalo was supposed to play this part,
He'd be great.
and
Joaquin's great too, though.
Yep.
He
Mark
had,
Ruffalo should have played all of these parts.
He should have played Abigail.
Shyamalan's part.
He had like a
Showalter.
tumor, and he sort of didn't do movies for like 2 years. And this was like the
Right.
first
This
one he
was
dropped
right
out of.
after he had been like in You Can Count on Me and was
Yeah.
like a new star, and then he
He was
vanished.
about to be the guy. He disappeared for a couple years, and he later revealed that he said at the time it was an ear infection, but it was in fact a tumor, and that's why he's got the sort of Stallone mouth right now, because they severed some of the muscles and part of his face, removing it, which I think has only made him more interesting as an actor. It gives him
I
a lot
agree.
more
I love
character.
Ruffalo.
He's great. But Ruffalo's great. He would be great in any of these parts. He always is. But I think Joaquin was actually really, really good casting for this.
Yeah.
I think the size, his ability to be understated and to go big
and
at
to
certain
be
moments like that
because he can be a good ham.
is
Yeah.
the right pitch.
Oh, yeah.
And this is Joaquin's weird period, like post Oscar nom, post Gladiator,
Right.
But like it's when he's making like Ladder 49. He's
Yeah.
making these like kind of bad movies for no good reason.
He's like a leading man, but like of
but
no
they don't know what to
distinction.
do with
No,
him.
they don't know,
So it's
yeah.
before Walk the Line,
Who
which
does
is I
he
feel
lead?
like Walk the Line cements him in his new status, which
Yes.
is like this is like one of our premier actors,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and he does art movies.
Yeah,
But before those like 6 years, he was
Yes.
and he's in 2 Shyamalan movies,
right.
Ladder 49.
What is Ladder 49?
Ladder 49 is a
fireman
bad fireman
movie.
movie.
With John Travolta.
Yep.
Or as I like to call him, John Travolta, because he was the voice of Bolt in Disney's Bolt.
Wow.
Whew.
Bolt about
Ah.
the dog.
Disney's Bolt.
It's
Stinks in here.
Yeah, it's no chicken run. I don't like it.
I like Bolt.
Oh, come on.
It's okay.
David, come on.
Yeah, but he's in Buffalo Soldiers. He's in Hotel Rwanda.
Right. He's got a weirdly small part in Hotel Rwanda. He's a cameraman in that, right?
Yeah, he's a voice in Brother Bear.
He was
Disney's
the
Brother
lead
Bear.
voice in Brother Bear, David.
Anyway,
He plays the titular bear, who
sure is a brother to another bear.
maybe his
Sister
little
bear.
brother's the titular.
Anyway.
I don't know which one he's referring to.
Brother
So
Bear,
I
the
think the
sister bear.
denouement of this movie is pretty fun, right? Do we agree? The suspense stuff.
Are we still talking about
Yes.
signs?
No,
Yes.
we're talking about Brother Bear.
I mean, like we like the knife scene.
Agreed.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, Shyamalan was making a stew before he left because there's like every kind of cut up vegetable, and none of them have been eaten
that
or
is
used.
true. That
It's
is
like
true. He got out of there in a hurry.
Mid-
he
stew.
overstages things too, though. It's
Yep.
like a very visual. It's pretty, but it's weird sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, it's I like people going for it, though.
No one eats that many vegetables.
No.
Living alone. Come
Nope. Well, he was cooking for 2 that night, I think. I think he had a friend over, and his friend just lashed out. That's the other thing. Gibson tries to talk through. This is what's interesting, which is probably a bigger theme, but I think so the aliens can't communicate with us.
No.
They could read our mind
They
potentially.
click. They click at us.
They click at us.
They click.
Yeah,
They're
they
like
do read our
Africans.
minds. You see them like summon images out of people's brains. Almost.
Yeah.
But as far as what they know, other than watching the news, and Joaquin kind of went into a rabbit hole. It seemed like he was up all night watching, being like, "Here's what they."
Yeah.
But I feel like are we just to believe that they're definitely here, not as friends, that they're here just to take over the planet?
Yeah.
Well, they throw out conflicting thoughts on what it is, if they're trying to take over our planet, if they're trying to harvest
The
us.
resources,
Yeah.
or the
You know,
humans.
do they want our place, our home, or do they want us as
The movie does not want to go into detail
They
about
kept
this.
saying
No.
harvest us, but what does that mean? Like
Like, just,
organs,
yeah, turn us
intelligence?
into
they want
goop.
to eat us? They want to use
Yeah,
us
I
for
didn't
Turn
batteries?
us into
Yeah.
protein goop.
Like Jupiter ascending. We got to talk about the kids a little bit, because these
Gotta
are
talk about the kids.
really fucking good performances.
They asked a
They
lot of
are
them, and they
amazing.
delivered.
Yeah.
Shyamalan,
No,
once
there were long
again,
shots in
puts a
there.
lot on
Yep.
his kids. He always
Yeah.
has kid actors. You've got Rory Culkin,
Yeah.
the third Culkin.
Yes.
Is he the third Culkin?
Yeah, I think there's maybe an oldest one who doesn't act.
Well, I mean,
But
it's
Macaulay,
Macaulay, then Kieran, then Rory.
Yes,
Right.
correct. Yeah.
Rory was great.
And this is after he'd done You Can Count on Me, which
Right.
he's wonderful in.
Yes.
That's a great movie.
And it is before he's done Mean Creek, which is also wonderful.
Can I tell a quick little side story? I went to the same school as Rory Culkin, but the year after he left, and he was like a little guy who was pale and liked movies, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my first 6 months of being there, they just called me Rory, because they were like, "Your replacement, Rory."
Yeah, you filled the void.
And my one friend Jack used to be like, "Man, he even smells like Rory." which I thought was such a weird comment.
That's
But he
very
said it
weird.
like multiple times over the course of that year. So I apparently smell like Rory Culkin. I don't know if that's still the
Smelled.
like yeah, maybe
I don't know.
I smell the same. He went and put on some fancy
He got some
odors.
musk.
He got some musk.
He had only been in Richie Rich, where he played young Richie Rich,
Very young.
and
Richie
then
Rich.
You Can Count on Me.
I think
So
he, played,
was
I think
still
he
a
plays
new actor.
literally baby Richie Rich.
I
and
believe
Richie
you.
Rich.
I mean, it's 94. He was
Yeah.
born in 90.
Oh yeah, and Macaulay was
89.
Oh, so then he was probably
He was a
toddler
kid-
Richard.
kid
There-
Richard.
I just know there's a baby at the beginning. Of the movie.
But anyway,
Good
so
movie.
he's great.
Yeah,
I think he's good.
excellent.
I think
thought he was
Abigail
great.
Breslin's amazing.
Kind of
Brings
transcend
it.
it. Yeah,
Brings
it's
it.
like hard.
Holy
Yep.
shit.
And what, she's 4 in this?
I think she's 5.
nuts.
It's
That
also
scene where he wants to record over her ballet, and it's
That
just
scene is
between
great,
them.
and
It's
she's like
amazing.
my ballet recital. Like
Yeah.
she won't back down.
No.
And Mel Gibson's like, get another table. I love Mel Gibson. Go get another table.
I like
Jesus.
that you made the comment too that they kind of feel like there's parts of that movie where the two children are almost the adults. Where it
Yes,
seems like
Precocious.
Gibson
Very
and
These two
Joaquin are just
zombified
dumbfounded.
parents who
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
what to do. And
These two are
a
keeping
common
the
theme in
train
Shyamalan,
entrance.
by the way. Willis in Unbreakable and
Yeah.
in Sixth Sense is this sort of zombie guy who's like walking through life, and one of them he's a ghost.
These kids always seem to be
Not to-
more
not to spoil Sixth
perceptive
Sense.
than the adults in Shyamalan movies. They're
Yes.
always sort
Well,
of
they're
more aware of what's going
explaining
on.
the logic to everyone.
Yeah.
They know what to do.
But the kids in Shyamalan movies always feel tapped into some bigger thing, whether it's literally like in Sixth Sense, he's tapped into the ghost world. In Unbreakable, the kid keeps on telling him, like, Dad, you're supposed to be a superhero. You're supposed to be a superhero. And he's like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And in this, the kids are telling about the alien thing. There's so much more focus on them in this than there was in Unbreakable, you know, where
Yeah, well,
essentially
they're better.
Clark was like a secondary character. But it kept on feeling to me. I remember watching it being like, these kids are so smart. And there's something so eerie and haunted to them, which I guess watching it now as a quote-unquote grown-up is like, oh, well, their mom just died. They're just kind of, you know,
Yeah,
haunted
right. They're
kids.
haunted.
Yep.
Right.
Their mom died pretty recently. They're with a dad who's kind of a shell of a man. Like, they're haunted. But I kept on being
Uncle
like,
Jesse moved in upstairs.
Yeah,
it's
and he's
just
kind of a weirdo.
Yeah, they just
it is almost a detriment. It is, I think, almost a detriment to the movie as a whole that these two performances are so good because it makes you feel like there's something more to the kids.
yeah.
You know, you're like, these kids are so fucking, like, electric that there has to be some explanation for what's going on with them, how they tie into this. Even at the end when they're, like, taking Kieran Culkin's, Rory Culkin's body, I was like, is he the key to something?
Right.
Is he the chosen
Yep.
one? It's like,
Yeah.
no, he's just a kid.
He
You
just
know?
has
you keep
asthma.
waiting
Right.
Yeah.
for the
Um,
scene I loved. Sorry,
ahead.
with the kids, that was like a good long cut at the end of the scene. Was the one with the walkie-talkie baby monitor in the car, and they all. It's when the
it's the
adults.
last time they're like having fun.
Well,
Yeah.
the adults
Yep.
kind of get on board and
Right.
get on top of the car, and they
Right.
all help. And he tells her not to get up, Abigail, and she does anyway. And then he helps Bo or whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the sound goes deaf, it's like one long shot of them all in a diagonal line,
Mm-hmm.
the whole family, and then she slides back down the windshield like disappointed. It's a really good scene. It's like not cheesy. It's just
yeah,
good.
I agree, and
And
they
the-
have a lot of chemistry as a family.
Totally.
Yeah, they do.
She never feels like she's like hamming it up or doing cutesy
No.
kid acting, but everything she does is adorable.
Well,
It's
but
true.
also she has a crying scene.
Yeah.
at the table,
Nails it.
And another tidbit I have for you guys: they shot that in pieces, obviously, and they were like, "Let's do Abigail first because she's, we're gonna lose
Right.
her. She's little." And she just instantly just started like sobbing, and like everyone else at the table was just like, "Oh my god!" Like
Yeah.
I couldn't follow her because
That's
she
a good move too, because then that gets everybody else in the gut, and then they start crying.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I had heard that from people who had worked with her, I'd say, like, before she was, like, 10, like,
Sure.
Little
She
Miss
was
Sunshine
making-
and before.
right, yeah.
People who worked with her, like, I worked with crew guys and stuff, who've always said, like, she has the most astonishing emotional reserve where even just as a kid, it didn't feel like, oh, she's been coached.
Right.
It didn't feel like, oh, this is a fucked up abused kid who somehow is, like, they just go, like, so Abigail, in this scene, you're crying because your mom said. She'd be like, okay. And then she'd just do it. Like, she was just some miraculous, like, wonder
Yeah,
child.
interesting that she hasn't turned into like a bigger adults, like Chloe Moretz or
I know.
Dakota
Well,
Fanning
or
whoever.
this
she
performance,
hasn't
which
made the leap.
I think is pretty astonishing. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Keen, the Lodge Kerrigan movie,
Yeah, it's a
No.
good movie.
which is a great movie with Damian Lewis, later of Homeland, and he plays a man who's searching for his missing daughter. And as the film goes on, you start to realize, oh, he might not be mentally all together. He might not have a daughter. How long has it been since the daughter?
Yeah.
Is he haunted by this trauma? Was there ever all this sort of stuff? And Abigail Breslin plays a girl in the last third of the movie. It becomes pretty much about the two of them. The first 2/3 is just this guy walking around. It's all from his perspective. And the last third of the movie is he sort of almost abducts this girl. I mean, it feels like he's trying to fill that void. And she's astonishing in it. Astonishing.
She's great.
And it's like just her and like a real deal grown-up actor. And she has like a crying scene. Like she likes this man who's nice to her. And then there's a scene where she starts to realize, oh no, maybe this is the kind of stranger that my parents tell me not to go with. Maybe I'm not ever going to see my mom again. And she like breaks down in a similar way. And I just remember seeing this being like, oh, this is the fucking next great actress.
Yeah, and it really stands out because a lot of times with the kids, it's just deliver your lines, not sing-songy.
Yeah.
Is basically all they ask, and they ask a lot of emotional weight out of both of the
But she
kids
just
in this one.
destroys it. And then she does Little Miss Sunshine shortly after that. Gets an Oscar nomination at like 9. It's a huge film.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you got
I think, that's the weakest of these 3 performances, but she's really charming in it, and she's the center character.
Yep.
But I think the other 2 movies, she's got more heavy-duty stuff to do. And then I guess she's still good and stuff, but I keep on
What is
waiting
she
for
in
her
now?
to... She's on that show Scream Queens now on Fox.
Yeah.
She was in New Year's Eve. I mean, I feel like she's also not doing
She's
stuff.
doing
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know.
I'm just waiting for another knockout performance from her. I know she has
It might happen.
She
May
needs a
happen.
dramatic role then.
Yeah.
Not like a
Yeah.
Scream
fluff
Queen.
piece.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot of fluff stuff. I'm a big fan. Thumbs up.
So, but I think we're almost done here. But I do think, have we done everything in the end of the movie? Well, we haven't talked about how everything lines up perfectly. It's like the bat,
She
the
keeps on
water,
drinking water,
the
but then
asthma.
every
We
water
talked
there's a
about the
problem with
asthma.
that.
Yep.
The asthma is always
Where he whispers, "I hate you" in the
To
kid's
the
ear,
son.
but to God.
Very weird.
But it's just he's clutching him, and there's that "I hate you."
That's the last thing that
And I'm
dead
like,
kid was ever
what?
gonna hear.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if that was the last thing that kid heard
Just
before?
Well, I
His
was like,
father's
why
like
is he
this
saying that
murder
out loud to his
Yeah.
child?
Yeah.
But
there's-
yeah, and the thing the wife's last words.
She told him to
were
see,
to see.
so that's like he needs to recognize the signs.
I assume so, and then Joaquin
See.
needs to swing away.
Well, earlier in the film, you don't.
You couldn't even say that with a straight face.
They don't show you the scene with the wife until after
yeah,
the
they've
alien
already
attack.
said those were her last words.
Yes,
and
Mel tells him that.
I
on the
do
couch.
actually like how the
I like
movie
it's well structured. I think.
peppers
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
these flashback moments, and
Right.
then like near the end, as the movie's reaching
Yeah.
its emotional climax, we're like, all right, we're gonna see this now.
And you know-
The first shot of the movie, the first thing they shot was the death scene of the wife.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mel
and
Gibson came on set. That was the first day.
You have your
Wow.
story about from the making of.
Oh yeah,
documentary.
they held a. This is crazy. They held a candlelight vigil for the dead wife. There's a picture.
The character?
On
The
set.
whole crew holding up candles before they shot this scene.
Wow.
And Shyamalan puts it like, we were all crying, before we even started.
They were crying for him.
for
for the dead lady who isn't
I
dead.
don't know.
But I think they were crying so that he would see that they were taking his movie seriously. It seems like one of those things where like, the boss is here, cry,
You gotta
cry.
imagine.
Because no one was actually crying.
How can you hold
No
a
one was
candlelight
actually-
vigil for a fictionally
Yeah.
dead fictional
That's an
person?
emotionally unstable
That's
crew, I would say.
I mean, the
real
surrogate
weird.
for that
he
dead
had
person's right there.
He
Yeah,
had a
wouldn't you say?
picture of this candlelight vigil that you see in the documentary, and that he then used as emotional support for his acting
for Ray
scenes.
Reddy.
When he walks by him in like slow mo and he's like on the ground.
Looking
That
at
was oh my
When he's
God.
looking down at his shoes, he's
No.
actually looking down at a picture of the fake vigil he held for a woman who was still alive.
Just
Because
to
it wasn't
channel it.
real.
But it is interesting that they were like, Gibson's coming, and the first thing we're gonna do,
Yeah.
we're gonna just plunge him into this
Well, that was one of the
emotional
better.
ice bath.
Yeah, and that was the better
That's
of,
the best scene.
of the
That's,
scenes.
that's
So there you
true.
go.
That was the best thing.
Yep.
But usually
He was
the movies,
probably drunk for that.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
he showed up drunk and just
Definitely.
slowly dried
Yeah.
out throughout the
Yeah.
film.
it feels like he has one in the bag during every scene of this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of movies make this mistake where there's they save the flashback for later, like it's a big twist reveal of
Sure.
what happened.
Right.
And what I like this film does is they pretty much tell you everything that happened in the moment, but they spare you the emotion of actually watching it. So it's not like it's like, oh, what happened to his wife? They pretty quickly on tell you. What were his wife's last words? He tells Joaquin Phoenix early
He
on.
does, yeah.
Her last words was she said, swing away. And he cites that as, that's
And he
how I
said that,
knew.
yeah, her brain was just firing.
nerve
Yeah,
and-
The
yeah,
last thing
yeah.
she said to me was swing away. She thought she was at one of your baseball games or something. It didn't make any sense.
Yep.
And they save, once he sees the alien holding Rory Culkin in the arms, they flash back and they show you the scene for the first time. It lands with full emotion. Before that, they show the scene where he has Cherry Jones tell him what's going to happen. But they don't show the wife conversation until then. And then the swing away thing suddenly, has a different weight to it.
Right, where it's like, yo, that bat on the wall. Maybe use it to hit the guy.
The alien.
Hit him.
Totally.
Hit him.
Keep
But without
swinging.
this,
If your wife hadn't died and
Super-
said these supernatural things, you would
Yeah.
never have thought oh,
There's
a
a
bat
bat.
is an effective weapon.
well, and that brings up a point that I was also curious about as a farmer. He's a priest, fine, but Bucks County, Pennsylvania, somebody's got guns. There's no guns.
There's
in this
guns
movie.
Yeah.
in that
Good
house.
point.
Murph
There's
was like,
absolutely
where
a
are the
fucking gun in that
firearms?
house.
It's a knife
Just
and bat
because-
movie only.
It's all knives and bats, which
Yeah.
I get because you're like, well, we need the bat because if he has a gun, you just shoot the alien.
Yeah.
Well, and
But-
I thought the reason they weren't moving is they were scared to like hit him because what's he going to do? Disappear with the kid? It's like the unknown enemy.
Right.
But
Right.
if the simple answer is just find something to hit him with, that literally could have been a chair.
And
Yeah.
throw glasses of
Good
water.
thing there's
And see,
water on
he's
every
like, I
surface,
see the alien holding my son.
Yeah.
There
like-
he is.
Come on.
Hey,
Yeah.
Hans.
Ben
Hey,
just
Oz.
walked in. I think, Ben, do you want this episode to end?
Yeah, I do very much so.
All right.
I was gonna.
It's like an hour and a half.
Yeah. I was gonna. We're wrapping up.
But
Yeah.
I also have some thoughts.
Well, maybe get on the mic
Jesus.
to say
There,
that.
get on here.
You want to share?
Oh, yeah. Ben
Benny's
gave me a
here.
sheet of paper with some notes that I was holding tight.
yes.
If Ben wants to share.
So
any
to
of
add to this point, you guys were just left off with, where's the president? Where's the fucking president?
So you just
talking
want
on
him to
TV?
appear on screen, being
It's
like,
just news.
Murph's
"My
nodding.
fellow Americans,
knows
aliens
what
are
I'm talking
allergic to
about."
water."
Who would you want to play the president in this movie?
Oh, I don't know.
M.
Shyamalan?
Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
He should have been the president.
It's President Francis Reddy, Ray Reddy's brother.
He's 18. He looks 18, which makes his
Yeah.
character unrealistic.
Got where's the fucking president?
Okay,
Cross
good.
it off
Check.
the list.
Check it off the list.
I wish that this movie was just the end. The twist was that it was actually Mel Gibson just losing his mind.
That would be a fine twist.
But it felt like it was going in that direction.
But then I think Shyamalan was like, no, not doing that again.
straight
Yeah.
down the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a theory that this movie gave Mel an idea of how to end Apocalypto, which is to tie in religion, Christianity, saving the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's wrap this up.
You have now referenced the ending of Apocalypto twice on this podcast.
I was gonna say.
Yes.
I believe you referenced it last week.
Yeah, the
An
twist of this
apocalypto
movie is that there's no twist, and the ending says like all those things that look like coincidences are coincidences that I'm using to pay off this ending,
Well, and maybe God is real.
and maybe I'm God because I'm the one who designed this scene where everything worked out perfect.
The twist is he puts the collar back on.
I know.
You
He
know?
becomes a priest.
He
I
Please
did
sit
not
up.
like the religious undertones of this
I don't
film.
like that last shot. It just
I-
feels so sudden because it's like it's all in that world. The whole movie's taking place within like 3 days, and then it cuts this one like the wall. They pan across the wall. Then it's winter, and he
Yeah.
just puts his collar on, and the movie's over. And you're supposed to be like, well, now it's all great as long as he's back to the
No
old
one will
job.
ever die again.
I
Yeah.
know. It is weird.
But there's no sort of emotional resolution. It's just like, oh, he's back to work. And every M. Night movie at this point has been like, I mean, they're all crisis of faith movies, right?
Yep.
And usually are
Resolved with
Catholic,
faith
if not Christian,
winning
right.
out.
Exactly.
Yes.
They're always about sort of like emotionally distant men who have a hard time relating to their family.
Yep.
Dennis Leary in Wide Awake, Bruce Willis in his two, Mel Gibson in this.
Yep.
And that's always these kids who seem tied into some deeper sort
Yeah,
of like
who have some
core.
sort of supernatural almost
right.
element.
If not literally, they just seem perceptive to
Wisdom beyond their years.
years.
He's
Yes.
just been
it's
working
true.
it out with Papa Shyamalan for years and years. That's what he's just
well,
been
that's
trying
the
to
thing.
work through.
And that's what he's very Spielbergy about him. Because like
Yeah.
Spielberg, it's
Yeah,
like
the
daddy
children.
movies,
Yep.
movies about well, why doesn't Daddy love me or
But
whatever.
Because
he
it's
had
a
Daddy,
shark.
I made John.
He had two doctor parents, but by all
Sure.
accounts, his parents were very doting and supportive.
yeah, it
of
sounds
him.
like he had supportive parents.
But he also had doctor parents, so maybe they were working crazy.
But maybe he
hours.
also just saw a lot of
He didn't
Spielberg
grow up
movies.
Catholic, right? But he went to Catholic school. I think to some degree he was like, "Oh, white people love this Catholic shit."
I was just going to say an Indian in Bucks County, or at least
Yeah.
in the parts. He grew up, I think, in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Was it
that sounds
Ardmore.
right.
or-
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he was just sort of trying to figure out like how to make movies appeal to the widest like swath
Maybe.
of mainstream America. But I also think this movie's interesting because he's been hanging these things of these guys who can't connect with their wives, right? Sixth Sense, it's because she's a ghost. Unbreakable because he's fucked it up,
Yeah, sure.
Like all these things. And then this one, it's like the wife is dead. And it's always like, oh, the guy's focusing too much on his career and not enough on his family. This one, the guy's given up his career entirely to focus on the
But
family.
it's distanced him from his family.
And then the movie's like, no, you got to go do that job too. It's like you got to do both things.
Sure, I guess so.
I don't know. It's an interesting movie. I mean, it's like
I kind of like it.
I kind
3
of do
stars.
too. Yeah.
I liked it a little because I thought I was going to hate it. And
Yeah.
then some of it was kind of cool. So then I was like,
I think slightly above average. I think it's Shyamalan's cameo
end is
and doing
brutal.
an alien
Yeah.
is CGI and not practical.
A little too.
Because they could have
neat.
done a little CGI for the camouflage if they
You know,
needed to, but
I
if
would
the
have
main
saved it for that. I think
I
anytime it was
agree.
in the shadows, it should have been a guy in the suit because you're not going to see
complaint-
details
I mean,
anyway.
and you guys have to remember the complaints at the time. Like, why would aliens who are allergic to water come to a planet
Yeah,
where it
I don't give a
rains?
shit about
Right.
that at
all that
all.
stuff. You don't
Yeah.
care at all.
I don't care at all about that.
I
was
wouldn't
thinking about
care
that.
if
I don't care at all.
it literally isn't like some water, a dribble of water spills on him and he starts bleeding.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
My
just
biggest
so
complaint-
dorky.
They didn't do their research on this planet.
there's a scene that's very like very specifically art directed of a seating arrangement outside of their farmhouse, and it's all Adirondack chairs, which are very
New England.
yeah,
you called that.
it's like Cape Cod, so that like that's such a specific chair to use in like the buttfuck Pennsylvania.
Yep.
It bothered me a lot
Buttfucks County.
because that's a specific choice. It isn't like, oh, they had one of those. They have like 4 and they're pristine.
They
and
want
that
this
one-
movie to look like who's the painter, the nice painter who makes
Thomas
America-
Kincaid, Master of Light.
No,
No,
him,
not
him.
Thomas Kincaid.
No,
Norman Rockwell.
Norman Rockwell.
Yeah.
Like they want it to look all American. I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's no character to like. This is Bucks County. Like,
Yeah.
where are they? Like,
It should be a little more
yeah.
specific.
I don't know how much people live in Bucks County. Like, is
They're Lancaster County more.
Okay, they're-
more, but
okay.
it's but there'd be a little more rugged elements to these
The
characters.
house is very pristine.
There'd be one shotgun.
Especially if mom's dead, that house should have gone to shit.
Yeah.
I did a quick sidebar because I don't even know what I take away from this. But Tak Fujimoto shot this film as
He
well.
did. Yeah, he had
Sixth
shot
Sense.
The Sixth Sense. Yeah.
And he shot Silence of the Lambs. And there's one scene that employs Tak and Jonathan Demme's big trick that they love doing, which is the characters staring straight down the barrel of the lens. You're doing a conversation between two characters
Yeah.
in coverage, but they're both addressing the camera, it
Yeah.
seems like, to make the audience feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
They use that a lot in Silence of the
What's
Lambs
the
during the
scene here?
interrogation scene. It's the one where, I forget which speech it is, but it's one of the ones where Cherry Jones comes over to talk to Mel Gibson, and it's the one that Abigail Breslin keeps on interrupting with the TV stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And the eye line is always straight with the audience
Right.
until Abigail Breslin comes in, and then it breaks, and then it goes to a side shot. And it is successful because it's like, oh, that is unnerving. It always is unnerving to watch a movie and feel like the character's
Just
talking
looking
to
at
you.
you. Yep.
But I can't, for the love of me, figure out why they did it there.
Cool shot.
I was tired. It looks cool, but he's also usually
No, but I
pretty
think that's the reason.
That's
tight
it,
about his
yeah.
It's a cool
language.
shot.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, very strange.
This movie's a little less though.
Yes, it
Yeah.
feels like
It's
he
slightly
was playing
less
it a little more
composed,
safe.
slightly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was a little more calculative, like, I'm going to make it very religious so it can appeal to, like, Homeland America, because
Sure.
Unbreakable, I clearly went too up my butt with the artsy-fartsy stuff that only Griffin's going to like. Sad little 10-year-old Griffin.
This one's
Those
for
are the notes in
Griffin.
the script. Where
Yeah.
like, Griffin's gonna
Yeah,
love
none of
this.
this Griffin fart stuff. But I think it's a, a film made by someone who knows how to make movies. There are masterful sequences in it.
I
There are
agree.
So it's above
great
average. I would put
performances.
it slightly
Yeah.
above average.
And it's him making a Hitchcock movie, like
Yep.
or
Yeah.
whatever, with Spielbergy supernatural
Mhm.
overtones. But he's like, I'm making a film that's going to have scenes of well executed suspense,
The birds.
layered
B
over
movie.
with
Those
it.
birds.
With,
The birds
When they
fly
heard the
away.
alien
Yes.
scream
The
after getting his
birds.
fingers
Yeah.
cut off, those birds went wild.
Mhm.
And
But we
thi-
should wrap up.
Yes, and this is kind of the last pure Shyamalan film. I mean, after this, things get really interesting in the career.
The next movie is to me the linchpin of everything.
He goes double artsy.
Yeah,
He goes right back to
Next
his old
movie is
trick.
my favorite Shyamalan, and
Ooh, wow.
I'm very excited
Okay.
to talk about it. But it's also where the wheels come off.
What's it called?
The Village.
Le Village.
Yep, I remember seeing that.
Le Village. Murf and Diana, thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
the
Thank you
show.
for having
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Of
Thanks
course.
for getting us
Coming into this hot room that
yeah.
you know
Oh.
well.
I
Yeah.
know this hot box.
Should be said. First of all, I think you folks are the ones who coined the Haas, so credit there. You know,
Mhm.
if you're a
Haas.
Blankie
Haas.
and you're not listening to Ménage, you got it all wrong. Because first of all, as we said, their podcast and the man who we're studying this miniseries share a name, so there's a lot of overlap. But also, if you like the Haas as a nickname, you'll love Ménage à Trois. That's all you need to know.
It's true.
True.
You've had some great guests on the show. It's a great podcast. It's
Thanks,
great.
man.
We've
Thanks,
both
guys.
been on. If you're looking for an
Both
entry
been
point,
on.
Dig
listen
back
to our
into those
episode.
My
archives.
episodes.
Please
Uh,
do.
We,
Wow,
we
back.
Yeah.
both
like 3 years ago.
cite
Yeah.
Winona Ryder as our all-time crush.
Yes, it's a double rider.
Yeah.
I believe I have an improv scene with Jeff Goldblum in my episode.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
so. Yeah.
I talk about Tangled a lot in my episode. And Ice-T. I talk about Ice-T. I tell a good story about working on Law & Order SVU. If you want to listen to that.
Mhm.
Great podcast. And both of you are involved with the Chris Gethard Show,
Yep.
which is coming back to
Coming back.
Fusion.
S2.
Season two.
Season 2.
Hour long
offi-
eps.
No official date yet, but very soon, within
Yeah.
the next couple months,
I think so.
it will be back.
12.
Spring 2016.
Spring is
Spring 16.
So definitely watch the shit out of that. But also, if for any reason you listen to this podcast and you haven't watched the Chris Gethard Show, what's the matter with you?
Yeah, that actually is weird. You guys should get on that.
Perhaps, I mean,
Maybe
maybe
it's blind person.
Yeah.
it's a blind. Okay, but listen,
If you're if you've got sight,
they have it as a podcast.
Look,
You could
don't-
download it to your thing.
Yeah, don't yell at them. You know, guys, check out the Chris Gethard Show. It's wonderful.
Maybe my maybe my favorite episode of television ever is the Chris Gethard Show episode First Times, which features a very big moment between the two of you.
Great
Mhm.
episode.
You might be able to guess where it's going, but I don't want to spoil it because the episode plays out so perfectly as it is. They give each other shockers because they each got 5 curly fingers.
Griffin, I swear to God.
Thank you for listening. I just want to do one quick plug.
Oh.
I last night stayed up very late.
Oh, of course. We have to talk about this.
We got to talk about this. I decided 2016
You've been talking about this privately.
And I've been working a couple different angles, but I've decided this is the year of no regrets. I want to put it all out on the table and try for everything, that I dream of, and live my life to the fullest, like The Secret. So I talked to my agents, my professional representation about this. I had a sort of personal side in with some of the producers, was trying to work that angle. And last night was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm working any angle.
Go viral, baby.
Let's go viral. I started a change.org petition addressed to Comcast
and President
Obama to cast me in the film Fast 8, the 8th film in the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yes.
Right.
It's being shot in New York.
Yep.
It's right here on our doorstep.
Casting director is the guy who did Draft Day. He's hired me before. You might go, great, then it's a lock. No, it's not. We need all the support we can get.
So we gotta rally the troops. Everybody get on that.
Everyone get on that. As of the time of our recording, I posted it last night at midnight or 1 a.m. As of the time that we started recording this, I had over 1,000 views to the petition. Cool.
Change.
Good start.
Change.org.
How many signatures?
Fucking 84. You assholes. If you click on the page, just sign.
How many do you think you need to get into Fast 8?
I think if I get 5,000, it will catch their attention.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Right.
I think if I have 5,000 signatures, there's no way I don't get an audition.
I think they'd at least get you in that room for sure.
Yeah.
I think we need to get you 1 million.
I think 1 million, they write a character for
we're
you.
We're gunning for 1 million.
If you're not, if they'll just, because that's the kind of movie you can just write a character into last fucking
definitely.
minute.
Look, I'm proud of my full write-up on the petition. I suggest you check it out. Bit.ly. I create a bit.ly link that's easy to remember. So it's http://bit.ly/fastgriffurious.
There you go.
Furious.
That's the link. I wrote up a whole thing.
Furious.
I explained my history, why it means a lot to me.
It's a great essay. You guys should read it.
I would work for SAG, minimum
Just those
scale,
scales, yeah.
local hire, so they'd save money on transportation because I could self-commute, but Subway. I don't need a lot of craft services because that could be distributed amongst the rest of the crew. I also give them a few pitches on different types of characters I can play. One is, a main entry.
No,
Yeah.
they can read it.
They can read it.
I don't think they have any budget restrictions on that film.
I know, that's why I'm saying,
I'll save you a couple bucks. If
happy
you,
to be part of the family. Happy to have one line. Let's get that going, please.
I'm going to go sign right now.
That's how you should be doing it, people.
If you're going to read
a lot of Blankies already signing. I recognize the names. I really appreciate it. So please check that out. Keep listening to this podcast.
Yep, we'll be back next week. We'll probably be talking The Village.
We're going to be talking Le Village with
David Ehrlich.
99%.
He'll be here.
Rolling Stone.
He's a Rolling Stone writer, one of my favorite
For
guys.
Time Out New York,
Oh, he's
Little
the
White
best.
Lies.
He's the best.
He's one of the finest. Murf Meyer, thanks again for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
David, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ben, I miss you on the other side of this wall.
He can't hear us.
And as always, you need 5 fingers for a shotgun.
You just need 3.
3, but you just need the right.
You got it, but it doesn't have the power unless there's 2 you aren't using. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do they have 5 fingers?
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 fingers of fuck.